Man, do I love that introductory video. What is going on, everyone? Welcome, Arvanauts, to a Saturday night stream. It is April 20th, 420. I will not ask you, which one should do on 420. That's dependent on your own particular predilections. But I will welcome everybody to day 26 of Expedition from the Mysterious Peaks, Shadows in Twilight, sponsored as always by Alligator Alley Entertainment. I am very excited for this session tonight. We have a party to crash, people, as we're going to talk about in just a moment. Please spread the word about the show and let folks know that we are live and rolling. Before we go any further, just a couple of reminders about ways to support us on the channel. If you haven't done so already, please follow the channel. Please check out our YouTube with !ArvTube. And if you're watching over on the YouTube channel, welcome. Please consider not only subscribing there, but joining us over on our Twitch channel as well. Discord is !ArvCord, where you can hang out with the Arvanauts in between streams. We've had some new people joining over there as well. Twitter is !ArvTweets, where you can follow me. I try to post when we're going live. Same thing with Blue Sky, !ArvSky. And the website for all that, arvanelleron.com. Financially, !ArvShop. That's the merchandise area for the various things on this channel basic stuff, but also Infinity and Beyond, and also Shire Adventures, and soon to be, very soon to be, Expedition for the Mysterious Peaks. It is coming soon, I promise, and you'll have a chance to get swag to support that campaign. Other campaigns look cool and also support the channel, so please do that. Please also support our Patreon. We're really trying to get that number back into triple digits, !ArvTreon for that. Cool stuff that you can get for yourself, which is unique to the Patreon, and also cool stuff that you can get for the channel as a whole. You can also get inspirations to support our players, which is something that you can do as well if you sub to the channel, so please consider doing that also, along with getting custom sub badges and emotes if you sub to the channel as well. Quick note that tonight, as always during Expedition sessions, the cheer command in Twitch chat will allow you to support the players. Any amount that gets cheered in terms of actual Twitch bits will be assembled by me and then sent along and distributed among the players, so please consider doing that if you like what you see in here tonight from the lovely players, as I have no doubt you will. On the publishing side, !Icarus, that's my graphic novel from Athos Arts. !Library is my Tales and Tomes from the Forbidden Library. That's my 5e adventure and sourcebook from Alligator Alley Entertainment, the sponsors of this campaign. Alligator Alley also has a role to play when you get to !Greyshade. That's my Greyshade IP. Greyshade and Renegade are the first two books in the Grey Assassin trilogy. Those are already out and available at that link, as is the audiobook of Greyshade done by our very own Trent Sparks. You can also pre-order the tabletop role-playing game of Greyshade, which is coming out from the aforementioned Alligator Alley Entertainment and designed by Brandon O'Brien. That is currently in playtest, and that will be out late this year. So again, that's Greyshade for that. Also, you can get the final book in the Grey Assassin trilogy called Heretic. That is going through the last edits and layouts and things like that, and that will be out in the summer of this year, in July of this year, as promised. So very exciting that will conclude the Grey Assassin trilogy. So please jump over to that link if you want to order/pre-order books and things like that, which I would hope you would do. And last but certainly not least, !BLM, Black Lives Matter, important to affirm and assert the significance and importance of Black lives. !Help Now, the World Health Organization page on suicide prevention. Important to reach out to others when you need help and reach out to others when they need help as well. And !Ukraine, Ukraine, to help the people of Ukraine as they fight back back against an illegal and illegitimate war with bravery and courage and send the message we will do so for others in the future. It is extremely good news that finally the U.S. House of Representatives got off their collective butts today and finally passed something which should have been passed months ago, which is a significant financial aid, foreign aid package, I should say, for Ukraine to defend themselves. That is good news for democracy, and it is good news for the world. So about freaking time. Now it goes to the Senate. They'll pass it quickly. Biden will sign it, and finally those things will be in play. Just should never have taken as long as it did, but I'm glad that it has now. So again, exclamation point Ukraine to support the people of Ukraine there. Quick note about schedule. We will be on again after tonight on Tuesday when we will be playing more Beowulf, Age of Heroes with Tari Tunes. Then I will be over on the channel playing, I believe, some Talisman Adventures, if I'm not mistaken. That'll be over on GOG.com's Twitch channel. And then in the evening on Tuesday night, we've got some Our Vocalists coming at you as well. Actually, no, I'm sorry, that's the 30th, not the 22nd. I take that back. That's not entirely true. The 22nd does not have the Our Vocalists. It just has those other things I mentioned, but it does not have the Our Vocalists. My bad. But then, yeah, we will be moving on then into the concluding weeks of April. Can't even believe that that's the case. So, but now that that is all set and ready to go, I'm going to unmute myself and apologize to anyone that I may have inadvertently have interrupted because I couldn't hear them. And then I'm going to unmute them. And last but certainly not least, I'm going to go over to reveal to you almost the entire crew. Johnny will be with us momentarily, but the rest of the crew is here and is ready to go. And as you can see, they are dressed in full party crasher outfits. They are ready to go to crash a party when this is the case. Darn it, Hillness, you added Our Vocalist calendar of every day next week. Damn it. Well, one of those things it's going to be right. It'll definitely matter at some point. Anyway, so I'm very happy to have the crew with me, and since Johnny is not with us to start, that means that we will start with the awesome and amazing Toya Kristen Finley. Toya, it's good to see you. How is life in the universe with you and all that? And who are you playing during our little party crashing evening tonight?
Pretty good. I am well ready for the NFL draft to be over with because it is, of course, exhausting talk and stupid mock draft season right now. So I'm really ready for that to be over with. But anyway, you know, and everything is an absolute. If they don't do X, then Y will most certainly happen.
For sure.
And then the team is doomed forever and ever. Amen.
That is correct.
Anyway.
Yes. According to the prophecy.
I am tonight playing Nals Darkly, also known as Nalik. And I am really looking forward to this rest we're going to have before we go to the party.
Toya was very anxious to emphasize the while. I'm like, oh yeah, party. And she's like, yeah, how about a rest? Can we have a rest?
Yeah, well,
we need a rest.
And I ain't the one who need it. So
yes, you are advocating in a way that I appreciate, and I'm sure your fellow your party mates also appreciate. Always a pleasure to have Toya with us, and also a pleasure to have Cat Rambo with us, of course, as we are here along with Cat. Cat, it's good to see you. I hope all is well with you. I hope that things in the Midwest are at reasonable temperatures as we speak here in mid-April. I don't know, how's things by you weather-wise, and who are you playing today?
Well, it's pretty nice, but as Toya and I were talking about earlier, it is tornado weather, so who knows what will happen when we see people go bicycling by the window and that sort of thing. That's what will be happening. In the interim, I will be playing Fob, a lizard folk rogue with a great many knives and a propensity for hiding, who is also looking forward to very much to the rest that we're getting before we go to the party.
Noted. Always a pleasure to have Kat with us. I see Johnny is here, so I will allow Johnny in, and then I will recapture because that's what's going to happen next. And yep, there we go. What I will do though is, let's see. I think that so Zach's actually is the one that is least screwed up currently. So that means that I am going to introduce Johnny last of all, which means that Zach can continue because people can actually see him as he introduces things. And then we'll go on from there. So Zach, my friend, how are you doing?
In the right spot.
How's life in the universe with you as you were sitting there in the right spot here? And who are you playing tonight and all that good stuff?
Life and the universe is good. Lots of D&D, lots of gaming and work, often at the same time. And yeah, that's about it. Of course, speaking of finishing up the Alien campaign that's being run by Little Red Dot over at Unmade Gaming. That's going great. We are on a knife's edge as far as inter-party conflict right now, because we have a group of characters that are trying to figure out what to do with an alien that's on board our ship at the moment, and half of us are thinking that we could maybe capture it to experiment on it, and the other half want nothing to do with the creature.
This feels like not true to the story at all. In the movie, everybody always agrees about how to handle the alien and doesn't get into arguments with each other or anything like that.
That's exactly what the Alien universe is known for. So
cooperation and smart decisions. That's Alien.
Yep. But that's what I'm up to. And then, of course, being here, where I'm playing Dr. Jaraxxus, the Dendis Cybermancer director celebrity. And those extra 2 words at the end are actual mechanical backgrounds and subclasses that I have. And that's who I am.
Yep, I was going to say multi-classing as a journalist at some point. Always a pleasure to have Zach with us. And by the way, folks, I should note that I think I can announce this now. We have found our video editor for Gen GMs, and he's good. He's really good.
Yes, it's really good.
We're super excited, and so we're going to be releasing shorts like there's no tomorrow. And by that, I don't mean the ones you wear. I mean the videos you watch. So that's going to be happening very soon. Like literally in the next week or so, we're going to start getting those out, and so it's going to ramp up. I think it's.
And you know what? I was going to mention it too when we end the stream tonight, of course. But also, yes, if we do ramp up enough, maybe we will sell actual shorts as well. We're going to start with video shorts.
We'll start with video shorts, and then clearly Generation GMs, the Gen GMs shorts, the coveted Gen GMs shorts. That's definitely what we're doing.
One cheek says Gen, the other says GMs.
No, that's not I veto. That's not gonna anyway. Always a pleasure to have Zach with us, and now that he has arrived on the scene, it is also of course a pleasure to have Johnny Pittman with us. And this one, I can't announce this yet, except to say that there is a big new thing that is coming very soon that is associated with myself and some places in which I hang out, and this person, Johnny Pittman. I can't speak more about it, but yet publicly, but we have spoken about it on the phone, and we have plans, people, is what I'm saying. So just if you're like, I wonder what they mean, I can't stand it, you're just going to have to stay tuned to the channel and all of the various places, and soon you will learn. So Johnny, how are you? I'm talking about a fast food franchise that we're opening. Clearly that's what I mean. Johnny, how are you? How's life in the universe with you, and how are you feeling about our new fast food franchise, and who are you playing today? I think you're muted. See, the fast food franchisees were like, we can't let this,
I'm so sorry.
Let this go.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you for sure.
Yeah.
The fast food franchise is spicy. Anyways.
yes. I was about to say something, would have given it away. I'm glad I didn't. Yes, that's right. Good. Well,
it was better than
Johnny.
acknowledging your comment about plans, right? I mean, that's a whole other can of worms. Anyways.
Wow. Good work.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm finally here. Sorry I'm a little bit late. Traffic changed on us because we had a freak burst of rain that came out of nowhere. Apparently the Virginia countryside gets a bunch of rain randomly right now. It happens in small spurts and happens a lot. So anyways, I'm here. Nice to see you guys. And I'm playing a Zek engineer by the name of Titus. That's it.
That's right. And we are going to be hearing a lot from Titus coming up. Yes, and hi, Jen. I it wasn't entirely, I think, Zach's point was not exactly about shorts that involved your name on the cheeks of the shorts, but we're just that sometimes that's things get said, and we have to live with those things, and then that's how that works. Anyway, it's a great pleasure to have this whole crew with us, and we are ready to go. So I am going to talk a little bit about what happened in our last session, although I should say just before I start, I do want to ask Zach, because Zach had assembled these like notes to die for. This is no pressure, Zach, because I have my own like things that I want to recap. But if you wish, you could sort of, from your perspective, tell us the highlight of what happened in the last session, if you wish to do so. No pressure.
Certainly.
Totally up to you.
Yeah. Also, I maybe I just zoned out, but did we get through everyone's intro? Or did we miss?
We did. Yeah, we did. We
okay.
started with Toya, then Kat, then you, and then Johnny was here. So then we had Johnny just now.
Oh, all
maybe
right.
you missed Johnny because, I don't know.
No,
I see how it is.
Maybe it's probably because when Johnny joined, everything got messed up, and then it was my turn. So yeah, okay, cool. I was just like, wait, did we get Kat? Did we get? All right, great. Okay, so yeah, the notes that I have is this was the session where we fought the fungus, of course, in the cellar, the wine cellar, and so we had a fun time doing that.
Yep, fun guy, that mushroom.
It was a very fun guy, somewhat related to the Shambling Mound, who, for those that know anything about D&D, and that it could have gone very bad. We were very injured, and some clutch moves by Nalik helped to save us, in particular a bardic inspiration that allowed us to teleport, or allowed me to teleport so I wouldn't die. And the other notes that I have down is that Bob inhaled some purple spores in the cellar after we defeated the fungus and saw a vision of a purple flame. We're not sure what that means. Nalik discovered that the fungus that had attacked us here in this cellar came from an empty wine bottle that it turns out is one of the Spirit Caller wine bottles. And we got a reward from Glimmerleaf. We got 50 gold. I think it was 50 gold total. That was then split 5 ways.
Split.
Yep.
And a potion of greater healing that has 2 doses and a potion of poison resistance. I don't think anyone of us did any.
Yeah, you should note who is going to take which for that, just because in combat you'd want to know who actually has it.
All right. Well, we can decide that when we start, and then talking with Mavra, making a plan with Glimmerleaf as well, the whole rest of the session about how we want to infiltrate the Spirit Caller gathering that's happening tomorrow night. And also, we told Mavra about the passing of her brother, and Mavra also told us about how she has, being also a Spirit Caller, she had dreams and visions, and is trying to interpret them, but is sort of finding her faith in doubt because potentially the leader of the Spirit Callers is, causing people to disappear and sabotaging wine cellars.
And that figure that she's seen in her vision, she's now wondering if that's a benevolent or malevolent figure.
Right. Exactly. And that's all I have down for now. So as far as I remember, we were about to take a rest here in the cellar, not in the cellar, but in the
right on top
the
of the
wine gardens. Yeah, in the wine gardens. Officially put a pin in officially note down what the plan is for the next day, and then I think head back to the Whisperwind Estate because I expect that Mavra wishes to see her family.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Zach. That's so that is what that is indeed what happened. I would add to that the as the party it had indeed planned to head back, spend the night at the Whisperwind Manor, and then come back for the Spirit Caller gathering the following day. And what the party also has to decide, and these are things that the party can go through. I'll also talk a little bit about suggestions made by Glimmerleaf based upon her knowledge of the previous parties like this in terms of what they could do to infiltrate, how much of them want to actually be involved in the infiltration, how many of them want to hide in the shadows. I have a sense of a certain lizard folk that might want to engage in that strategy based on previous commentary, and so on. And so those are all things the party will have to decide, but the party isn't going to have a lot of time to do it because it is tomorrow night that this Spirit Caller party is happening, this initiation party, and obviously this party of characters has to figure out what these disappearances are about if they are to get the help of the elite of Celis. So as we pick back up then, do I understand that correctly, that what the party wanted to do is do like a short rest and then go back to the manor, or you just want to go back to the manor and do the long rest overnight? It's up to you, but so.
I would prefer to go back to the manor for the long rest and take Mavra to see her family.
Yeah, I think we were gonna do that anyway, but I guess it's just if we expect any trouble on the way back, but I don't see why we would. So maybe we should short rest just to be safe, because all it means thematically or cinematically is, or narratively is what I mean, is that we take 1 hour and rest at the wine gardens where we know it's safe, and then if any trouble, if we do get ambushed again, for example, like we did when we were leaving the Cario troop, then at least we're not getting caught off guard, or like we also kind of got ambushed at the market a little bit.
Yeah, there have been these shadowy figures tracing your movements, following your steps.
Yeah.
Or is it just one of those things like in scene and then we're at the manor?
You want a montage that you don't know? I can't tell you that one way or the other until it's
exactly. Yeah, we don't know until we say that we want to leave. So that's Jaraxxus's vote. Is let's just take an hour here and then do what we say we're going to do, in the case that the GM has some shady plan.
How's everybody's health? Let's talk about that for real quick.
Bob needs rest.
Okay. So yeah, as far as the health I have, so we talked about this actually earlier on. So Null is at full, I believe, 31 out of 31. Fob is at 12 out of 20, I believe.
Yes.
Jaraxxus 11 out of 21. You have those temporary, but that obviously that's
right.
temporary. And then Titus, you just took that 1 point of damage, the 27 out of 28. But I know that there are spell points that people are down and all that kind of stuff, talent points, etc. So,
what about God, I'm forgetting his name right now. The Wolfie friend.
Gamork has definitely been hit, although not badly hurt, but yes, is a little damaged.
Jaraxxus leans back and says, "Let's rest here. Maybe it would be wise of us to not do anything that would require a lot of energy, and maybe take a walk around the gardens, familiarize ourselves with the space before it's filled with people tomorrow. At least that's what I'm going to do." And Jaraxxus will try to short rest.
Okay. So if you all are in agreement on this, and you take about an hour to do that, and basically, a stroll around the garden I'll allow as sort of a part of that rest, but that's it. So no, like, while I'm looking around the garden, can I investigate the flowers? Like that's more than a short rest. So, but assuming that you're just willing to stroll and enjoy, or stay in one place and enjoy, then you can do some healing if you wish. So I guess the question is, what is everyone going to do? Well, first of all, how long do you want this to be? It needs to be at least an hour to be a short rest, but how long do you want it to be? And then secondly, what do you want to do during your short rest period?
Just an hour is all we need, I would suggest, right?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Okay, so Fob, since I know you said you needed rest, let's start with you. Do you want to roll? Do you have hit dice left to restore hit points that you have not yet used in a short rest? Do you know?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so is that what you want to be doing? Is kind of chilling out on the ground and waiting
that
for
is
that?
what I will be doing.
Okay, so let me have you do that now while we're thinking about it. Do you have? You should have right now. So you start with 4. Do you have all 4 of your hit dice?
I have not done this before. This is one of the places where D&D has progressed beyond me.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay. So I can tell you that. So you're at level 4, so you have 4 hit dice, which are just the dice that are used for your opening hit point total, D6, D8, and so on. For you as a rogue, probably D8, I'm guessing.
I think
so that would mean that you can roll, and you can do this one at a time. You can roll 1d8 and then add your con modifier, and that's the number of hit points you get back. And so you can do that up to 4, and then you restore a certain number of those at long rest.
Well, I'm going to start by doing it once.
Okay.
And I have a con modifier of 2. So
wow.
10. So I'm at full.
Oh, look, you're hale and hearty. Listen, that's perfect. Okay. So good stuff. Okay, so you have 3 hit dice left, but as I say, that will get somewhat restored upon you get during long rest. You get, I believe it's up to half of your total number, so you'll be able to get that one that you used back during your long rest. Okay, well, while Fob is doing that, Titus, let me ask you, what are you doing? Are you strolling around the grounds? Are you hanging out, prepping something else, doing something cool with your drones? I don't know about what else you're doing.
While Jaraxxus is walking around the getting a lay of the land, I guess, the wine gardens, I'd like to get comfortable with the little place that we're going to be hiding. And really get a sense of what that's like, and what, like whether there's the ability to see out of it, easily, or if we're going to have to prep it in any particular way. Just get a sense of the place that we'll be stashing ourselves until the party, like while the party is going on, so that we can observe. Okay,
let's take a look at that. So as you what I'm going to have you do actually for this is, since you're not taking the rest for the healing, then you can do this. Let me have you make an investigation check, Titus. And what you're doing here is getting a sense of what spots in the area make the most sense for the kind of layout of the garden.
Okay.
So yeah.
Investigation. Yeah, okay. I was going to see if there was something else that might make more sense, but let's just do that.
I thought perception, but I think this makes more sense because you're actually getting down into the weeds a little bit, somewhat literally. Okay, 18. So what you notice as you walk around, Titus, and if you want, actually, you and Jaraxxus, Zach, unless you had something special planned for Jaraxxus doing this, the two of you could be like pointing things out to each other if you want in terms of places to hide. That's up to you. But remembering, though, Jaraxxus, then that means you're not going to get... If you're strolling around and you're just strolling around to rest, I'll allow it. Titus can point things out to you, but you can't assist on any investigation if you're also going to get hit points back. So I'm just double checking on what you want to do.
Yeah, that's okay with me. I'm prioritizing resting, so whatever I can do within the limits of that is okay.
Okay, so I'll come back to you. So what the both of you were able to notice, and Titus, what you can see in more detail is, so the wine garden itself and the specific area of this, if you were to think normally of a sort of, to jump out of game for a minute, if you could imagine what a kind of Renaissance French garden with high hedges and things like that might look like. Imagine sort of the front gardens if you've seen pictures of Versailles or something like that, where you have these sort of high hedges. But here, instead of having hedges, what you have instead are sort of these high-shaped rock formations, crystalline formations actually, which go back and then move around. And in fact, one of the crystalline formations, as Glimmerleaf helpfully explains to you, is done in a maze. So literally it's like you would walk through, just like you have a hedge maze in our world. You have a crystal maze that you can kind of make your way through. They say that it's also sometimes used to clear the mind, sort of like walking a labyrinth would be like in our world. But in terms of the places where you're walking around, there are a number of those spots where you could theoretically conceal yourself pretty carefully, you would think, Titus. especially if you were putting yourself into that maze. So one side of this area where it takes place, you've got a little maze that people can go into. Around this central clearing, basically where the party itself takes place, you have a number of tables that are set up in the middle of the space. And then you have, in addition, you have these sort of rock formations and crystalline formations surrounding this large clearing. But behind a lot of the tables, because there are a lot of them there, and they all have tablecloths and things like that, there are a number of tables below which you could be concealed. You could probably literally hide yourself below a table. Especially Titus could hide below a table given the size, and underneath the tablecloth. So you could do that. You've got the maze that I mentioned, which is a possibility. And there is also one thing, although it's a little theoretically more dangerous, which is that leading into the garden, the Dew Dream Gardens as a whole, the cavern entrance basically narrows. And you might remember that as you were coming in, you kind of go around a bend and then it opens up into this garden. You could also theoretically hide around the bend, because the bend is pretty close to where the clearing itself actually is. The danger there is if anyone else comes late, from the passageway, Titus, leading in, it would not be easy to hide yourself from those people, because they'll just see you kind of standing at the corner looking around. So it's a little risky, but it would certainly be, barring the tablecloth, it would be as close to the party as you could get in disguise without being seen, basically being hidden. So it would have the benefit of making it easier to hear conversations and the like, but it is a little bit risky. So those are the three major areas that you see as possibilities. Which you can just, hold on to and think about. But that's what you know of in terms of hiding spaces. Unless you have questions. Sorry, you're muted again, Johnny.
Doing the mute again. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I'm gonna think about that for a minute, but that's one. Two, Zach, you said that you were gonna treat it as if you were gonna just use your hit dice and use it as a short rest.
Yeah, I'd imagine that I'm can be around, but I'm not actively doing anything. Jaraxxus is chilling out.
While we're walking around, Titus is going to use his mend ability on Jaraxxus, and it's touch based, so
okay,
great, and is going to give him 4 hit points back.
Lovely.
Before you do that, as you reach out, Jaraxxus says, "I am hurt, but I'm starting to feel better. Why don't you save that for if we get ambushed on the road or something?"
Titus kind of looks at you, looks at his hand, looks back at you, or looks at his paw, looks back at you, and says, It's not much. You're fine. It's anything that we run into, it's going to be more than this cost me in materials for resources. You're good.
If you say so. And I will heal 4.
Okay.
Yay.
Thank you to our Polar for the resub. I appreciate it. 44 months of support. Thank you. Hope all is well.
Nice.
And also live suing. Welcome. More to come on the live suing front related to an earlier announcement I made soon. But welcome live suing also. Tim Coolish, Emily, all the other folks that I think I said hi to, but if I didn't, hello. Okay. So, all right, so you're up to 15 out of 21. Titus, you've heard about the hiding thing. Let me finish, since we started working with Jaraxxus, Zach, let me finish up with Jaraxxus as well. Any other, so you want to do the rest, which means we got a hit die roll coming from you, I believe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll just do 1 since Titus has healed me.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine. So I heal 4. Should be at 19
out of 21. And then your temp will disappear during that time until and unless you recast, basically.
Let me see real quick if it's on a short rest or a long rest. So if I go here,
And I'm going to come to you in a minute,
healing.
Nulls.
Okay, healing. Stabilizing temporary hit points. They last until they're depleted or you finish a long rest. So I should still have the 7.
Okay. Okay.
It says unless the feature you're using has a duration. So let me see what the duration is of Innervate. Other than that, nope, yep. Since the only way for him to actually regain health is to not actively, like, be snooping around on anything, Jiraxis is just having a nice free visit at the wine gardens.
A nice,
actually,
pleasant walk.
I do see now it does have a duration of 1 hour. So what Jiraxis will do is he'll re-up it since he can do it at will. So technically, it's going to be perhaps a different amount. Let's take a look. So now I only have 4 temp HP. But there you go.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I thought I remembered there was something about the reroll of this thing with this specific one. Okay. So 19 out of 21 for temp. Okay, good stuff. And that leads us last, but certainly not least, to Nalik. So Nulls, what is your plan for during this short rest? What do you want to prioritize?
The maze is very interesting, so Malls is going to inquire about that.
Okay.
Glimmerleaf, do you have a map of that maze?
I believe so. It's if I can track it down. Some of the old plans. And calls over one of the assistants and whispers, and the assistant nods and runs off. And within probably a couple minutes, only comes back and has a crudely drawn sort of top-down version of this maze, which indeed is a labyrinth. Now, the notable thing about this is, so a labyrinth is not quite like a maze in the term that they're using it, because a maze has theoretically, lots of dead ends and, misdirections and things like that, right? But a labyrinth actually, at least one of this type, has only one path. You enter in one way, you walk around that path all the way till you get to the center of it. And the idea of this is to sort of contemplate existence and to settle the mind and so forth. And then you walk out the way you came in, the exact same path. Because we're talking about crystalline walls around you, it's not like you can just, in a hedge maze, bust through the maze. Like if you try to do that, you will rip your skin to shreds. You can't do that. So basically, once you're in, you go in, and there's one way in and one way out of this labyrinth.
And where is the exit?
The exit's the same way. It's the entrance. Entrance and the exit are the same. That's the whole thing about the labyrinth. There is a center place, though.
Have you ever seen Ostrika or any of the other spirit callers go in there?
I imagine that some of the spirit callers have. I don't think I've seen Ostrika come in that way, but it's possible. The labyrinth that we have here is fairly well known, but not certainly a thing that's part of their ceremony. At least I don't believe that it is.
So you said there's only the entrance and the exit are the same thing. Could Nalik take a stroll through there and see if she picks up anything?
Sure. Absolutely. And so as you walk through the labyrinth, and indeed, as was the case, it's not huge, like incredibly large, but it takes a couple of minutes to traverse it. And you're struck, Nulls, as you walk through about the sort of shimmering, glittering crystal, which are a big feature, as you've noticed, of Celis. The crystals here, as you walk by, at first you don't really know if there's any, you think maybe you might be imagining it, but then it's definitely the case that as you come like to a section of the labyrinth, the crystal to the left and the right of you glows. And as you walk past it, the glow you can see follows you along the path, like along the walls, basically mirroring your movement, and then darkens behind you. So it's as if the walls are tracing your movement, possibly responding to something about you as you're making your way through the labyrinth.
And also ask Glimmerleaf about that. What exactly is happening there?
So Glimmerleaf is outside. I mean, you went in on your own, so you can.
Right.
I don't know if you want to do the whole labyrinth
Explain
and then
it.
come out and ask.
Yeah, explain that, that glow was following me and then just kind of darkened.
Okay. Hold on to that question for hey Crit Twitch. The walls are watching. Yeah, exactly. Thank you for the tier 1 support, Crit Twitch. Appreciate it. Good to see you. Okay, so hold on to that question for when you leave, because when you get to the center of the labyrinth, I did want to mention this.
Oh, I thought I was out already. Sorry.
No, I figured. I mean, I don't want to rush that part because I thought you might want to know about this. So the center of the labyrinth, there is a central space. And when you get to the central space, you can see that in the middle of a small cleared out space, it's not really a clearing. It's kind of I guess it's a room, but it's circular and it's not very, not very big. But in the center of it is a crystalline post. And the post widens out into a basin from which water is trickling. Almost like a fountain, but it's not very strong a flow. There's more of a trickle. So the effect is there's sort of a quiet sound of trickling water echoing off the crystalline walls. And as you come into that center space, the glow that I mentioned that's been following you just goes around and around you on the walls as you're standing in the center area looking at this crystalline fountain.
Interesting. Is there anything else unusual about this particular space?
You don't think so? Looks pretty much the same
Okay.
as everything else except for the fountain in the middle.
And the glowing light.
And the glowing light, right.
Okay.
But that followed you in. I mean, it was definitely darker in there until you came in. And remember, it's open to the air. You can still see above you the ceiling of the place and everything, but the walls are pretty high, probably 8 feet high.
Okay. Okay, so Malik's going to exit and then ask Glimmerleaf about that glow that followed me and into like that inner part around the basin and the trickling water.
And Glimmerleaf sort of smiles slightly and says, "Ah, interesting. Are you sure that you don't belong down here in Celis in the first place? You see, it is believed by many among Silesians that when the crystal walls respond to your presence, there is a sense that the elders themselves are responding to you, an image of the world beyond. Some people, when they walk through the labyrinth, have this same experience, the walls energetically responding to them. But I do not remember it happening for an outsider before. As for the light flowing around you in the center space, that is where the labyrinth is at its most focused. So it may have been responding to something within you."
Is the light the elders themselves?
Depends on who you ask. My people believe that it is, but there are some in the more scientific bent who believe that it is simply a response to stimuli, perhaps a response to the natural electrical energy given off by all beings. But as you may have noticed, my people are somewhat suspicious of science and technology. The spirits have treated us better.
Well, I would have to think that the elders know of all the trouble that's been going on here, and I would say that they probably mean to do something about it. Would they lend us their aid?
If you could find them, but my people have been trying for many, many years to speak to the elders without success. The glow in the walls is an echo, an imprint. I have seen people walk up to them and speak directly to the walls with no response. They are somewhere beyond. It is our hope someday that we can connect with them. Right now, they are but an image, a phantasm of what they would be in our world.
Is there some focal point somewhere down here beyond even this place where the magic is more concentrated?
The spirit callers say it is within their own sanctum, but it is difficult to enter that sanctum unless you are a spirit caller yourself. I am not a spirit caller, and so I cannot say. And and I think that was everybody. So at the end of the hour, you have an opportunity then to head back, if you wish, to the manor. Just before you do that, Mavra comes up to all of you and says, I wish to return with you to see my mother, as I said, but I am a little... I'm troubled. I don't know how my mother will react. She is strong-willed, and we did not part on the best of terms. And you've seen her more recently than I have. How did she seem to you? And she seems genuinely like, what now? Again, now she hasn't been gone for Mom for weeks, but, you know, over a week, and has had some falling out with, as you may remember, with her mother in the past. So it seems like she's genuinely asking you.
Jaraxxus will say, well, I don't know how she normally is, but she seems a bit on edge, in my opinion. I mean, perhaps I would be too if one of my children just died, but there was also a bit of a conflict between her and your sister. And when your mother got the news, she blamed your sister to some degree. And otherwise, it would be your best guess. I don't think it was so dire that they're not talking to each other or anything, they weren't. She's certainly not happy. You were very good at sneaking up to us and kind of being, anonymous. You could come to the estate. I'm sure you know it well, having it being your family's, and, spy from a distance or from a hiding place, scope things out before you make your appearance.
You're all fighting with the same determination. You all have the same foe. I can't imagine she wouldn't be proud to know what you've been doing, and you do need to share information.
You are probably right. And Elu, who in some ways was always the most impulsive of us, it does not surprise me that my mother is upset with her. Elu was one of the reasons that my brother left Celis in the first place. Still, to blame Elu for something like that. No, Jaraxxus, I appreciate your suggestion, but Nals is right. I must face this directly. I have spent some days in the shadows, longer than I wish. But I hope she will understand. And she kind of nods and sort of like just draws back just a little bit, and you can tell that she's sort of lost in her own thoughts, but she's ready to, head out to the manor when all of you are.
Yeah, Jaraxxus is as well, and I think I was going to say maybe on the way back, because we're going to pass by the market again, we could buy some last minute supplies, but we each have those Star Water outfits, which are the same kind of fabric that the Star Callers wear. I mean, not that we're going to immediately look like Star Callers, but at least we'll look like we're people that wear things that are from here.
Blend in as much as
right
we can.
So I think, other than healing potions or something, which we have one. Oh, which I guess now that before we head back, then we should establish who has those. So we got a potion of greater healing and a potion of poison resistance. So who are we worried about healing, and who are we worried about getting poisoned?
Oh, I think considering the party that's coming up, who's going to be most in harm's way?
Mm-hmm.
Party
So I
goers.
And
Right.
well, we haven't kind of strategized what's going to happen where. Because I think that labyrinth could be used to, great effect.
That's a good idea.
So I think we should go back to the manor, strategize, and then divvy up the potions.
Okay.
That makes sense.
That does.
We do that.
Okay, so Glimmerleaf tells you, by the way, just before you leave, that, of course, she was grateful for your assistance with the cellar, which is why she gave you the gifts in the first place. And she tells you that she would be willing, if you wish, she may have, actually, we may have mentioned this before, to have several of you pose as hopefuls for the initiation ceremony, because she's been there a couple times before. Now, she doesn't know which of you is best suited for that, or if any of you want to try it. And as we said, some of you are going to want to hide and some not. And you're certainly willing to, welcome to, say no thanks, but no thanks as well. Mavra is going to pose as, basically is going to pose as a hopeful using her noble standing until Astrika shows up, at which point, obviously, Mavra and Astrika know each other, so she won't be able to maintain that. But she can, at least from the beginning, kind of get her own access, because she's a noble, and she could be like, oh, I want to do this spirit caller thing. But, obviously that only works until Astrika arrives. But Glimmerleaf offers to have some of you pose as hopefuls. Again, it's up to you as to which ones you'd like that to be. And you can think about that tonight when you strategize at the manor. Just something to think about, that she gives that as an option.
Great.
So the return is plagued by multiple fights. No, the return actually passes without incident. And in fact, when you get back into the market, you notice that the market is darkened and quiet, and seems to be closed. Now, Celis's vision of sort of what an evening is a little bit different than it might be topside, because in a way, at least light-wise, it's always kind of an evening, sort of a twilight down here. But it definitely feels as if this is a period of rest anyway, and so the market is somewhat closed, and you see and hear no signs of any hurrying cloaked figures or anything like that sort of hiding in the shadows as you move along. Nulls, that experience that you had of the crystals reflecting you in the labyrinth does not repeat here. Like when you're leaving the Dewdream Gardens and everything, they just stay normal crystal rock walls. So it just seems to be confined to the labyrinth from what you can tell, from what you're able to determine. But otherwise, the trip back up to the manor is relatively uneventful. And when you arrive, the 6 of you, 4 of you, plus Gmork, plus Mavra, as you are making your way up the sort of rise of the hill, there's oh! And then you see, like rushing down, you see Rel, who is like at top speed heading towards Mavra. And Mavra sort of stops and then has this little sort of small smile as Rel sort of like practically tackles Mavra, but not exactly, and sort of, oh, Mavra, and then like circles around multiple times, and Mavra is sort of like, yes, Rel, yes, yeah, and yes. And Rel says, you're here. You're all right. Yes, I'm fine. They found you. Thank you for finding them. She goes to each of you individually. Thank you for finding them. Like and Mavra says, all right. Calm down. Where is my mother? And Rel sort of like, that sobers her up, and she's like, she's up at the house with your sister. She just got back. Neither of them look happy. I don't think they're mad at each other, but whatever happened at the Palace of the Primarchs today, I don't think it went well. You're going to say hi? And Mavra says, yes, I have to talk with my mother, and these, my friends here, will be able to help. We have much to discuss. And Rel says, all right. What do you need me to do? And Mavra smiles. She says, just be yourself. Maybe you could get some water for everyone. Water, I'm on it. And like out like a shot. And as the 4 of you, the 5 of you, 4, 5, 6 of you, make your way up the hill, you can hear a little tinkling of bells. And then you see Elu has come out onto the lawn from the house, and next to her, Lady Levia Whisperwind, her mother. And Levia, when she sees Mavra, who's just sort of standing to the side of the group of you, Levia sort of looks and then kind of, takes a deep breath, and Mavra sort of glances over at you and says, well, wish me luck, and walks up the sward towards her mother. Now, do you want to follow directly behind as you walk up there?
A little bit of a distance.
Yeah.
Very unobtrusively, to the point of probably most people aren't noticing me.
Okay. Titus, what about you?
I'm going to follow suit.
Okay. So you are just a little bit of a distance behind, and when you get up close to the entrance to the house, just on the front, a slight patch of lawn basically in front of it, Elu sort of looks at her sister, and you can see a couple of tears rolling down her cheeks, and then she says, hey, Mav. And Mavra just sort of wordlessly walks over. They embrace, and Mavra says, Elu, you've gotten taller. And Elu says, not likely. I wasn't a kid when I left here, And they kind of smile at each other. And then Mavra turns to her mother and says, and kind of does a slight curtsy and says, Mother, I'm back. And Lady Levia kind of looks at her. You are back. And she sort of takes a step forward and puts her hand on her shoulder, and then does indeed embrace her and says, You shouldn't be leaving like that without telling me. You shouldn't leave. And Mavra says, has her eyes tight shut, a couple tears coming down. I know, but I had to, Mother. There are things happening in the world. Things happening here. And they disengage, and Livia nods and says, I know. And I imagine we have something to discuss. Come in. Dinner has been set for us. And she brings you back to... Now, you have been so far outside the house so far in this... You may remember you had a kind of a meal with this canopy of trees and that kind of thing that was sort of overreaching. This one, though, is even more extraordinary because it takes place in a room which is known... Now, in the outside, you would probably think of this as a greenhouse or a solarium because it's got all of these windows that are open to the outside. But what they refer to it as is a moon chamber. And as you all sit down at the table there, the starlight from the glittering, I say starlight in quotes, from the glittering ceiling comes down and hits the glass and sparkles so that it is as if all of you are covered in this beautiful dancing light. It's not blinding. It just feels almost soothing as you are sitting down, and fresh water has been poured for you, and a meal of various descriptions, including a number of courses, is served. And after they've had a chance to sort of catch up a little bit, Mavra sort of sits back and says, my friends and I have some news, Mother, about what we think has happened to Sister and everyone else. But I think they should tell you what it is they're thinking. We need to help them. And Levia sort of nods slowly and says, very well. So, before I tell you our news, what have you learned? And that's just to the four of you in general. Gamork, by the way, did not come into the moon chamber. And this was not we don't want a Gamork in. Gamork was in the universal sign of hell no. So he is outside somewhere, probably lying down with head between paws.
I do hope that at some point Gamork shares with Levia what he experienced, though.
That'll be up to whether you can facilitate that conversation, because Gamork's not going to go out of his way to do it on his own, I'm telling you right now. Okay, so she asks you what you found and
Yeah.
what you need and plans, etc.
Jaraxxus is happy to begin recounting the story of what we've learned pretty much since I mean, gosh, it's been quite the day. So
Yeah, it has.
I imagine, I don't want to speak for my fellow players, but I'd imagine we recap everything that's happened today, from our visit with the Carios troop and with them, to the constabulary visit, and then the marketplace, going
Shadow
to my Lestri's
figures.
house.
The shadow figures.
Oh yeah, the
Been
first
a
set
hell
of
of a
shadow
day.
figures who tried to kill us, and the second set of shadow figures who then gave us poison coins.
Right.
And then Lestri's house, and then meeting Mavra, and then the wine gardens, and the fungus, and the whole spirit callers thing. And
By the way, while you're doing
Yeah.
this, Levia is just sort of watching as you're saying this. Elu, however, is sort of like very engaged in this whole business. I mean, Levia is too, but like is very calm about it. Elu is just kind of like listening to all this. And when you get to the part about the second set of, and she says, what cloaked figures? What's going on down here? They were trying to kill you? Mother, what is going on down here? And Levia's many things, child. Yeah, apparently many things. Yes, many things. Too many things. I thought I left behind violence and kidnapping and destruction up there. And Levia sort of doesn't say anything. And Mavra's been listening quietly. When you finish the end of that sort of tale, Levia takes a deep breath and says, I see. So now that you have this information, what are you planning to do? This party you talked about, you're intending to go to it?
yes, we're still working on the finer details, but I think the base plan is that some of us will be hidden. And I'll look at Titus, and then I'll also seem to be speaking about myself when I say some of us. And others will be taking parts directly. And then at some point, maybe we can learn of some treachery that's happening, or directly confront Ostrika, or we'll see. But either way, the Spirit Caller's wine, at the very least, was something dangerous and foul. So we've already made plans to have Glimmerleaf swap out the wine so no one drinks poisonous fungal monster juice tomorrow.
There's a crystalline labyrinth there, and it seemed that the very elders may have been gracing their presence as I walked through. I'm wondering if we can get Ostrika in there. Would the elders help us to get her to explain herself, what she's been doing?
And Levia sort of purses her lips and thinks and says, the Spirit Callers are greatly respected among my people. And part of the reason is that they offer the hope that we will reconnect to our people on the other side of the veil. At some point we will return home. But because that is true, it means that we know very little about what in fact is involved. All of us have felt the vibrations in the rock walls, the sense that something is there with us. And if you are blessed enough to be in the presence of the Primarch, when the Primarch makes these connections, we can feel that intensity, and we can feel the electrical impulse intensify, as if the elders are right there speaking to us. That said, the only ones who really speak directly to them in any context at all are the Spirit Callers and the high-level ones. So, I don't know is the answer. It's the elders themselves don't live here. They live on another plane. If they are reaching through and communicating, it is very difficult for any of us to know what it is they wish. except for the spirit callers themselves, which is why becoming one is considered such, and her eyes drift over to Mavra, such an honor. And Mavra kind of nods slowly and says, but you need to have been a spirit caller for much longer than I to get to the point where you were actually speaking directly to one on the other side of the veil.
Oh, we also got some intel, is something we would say, to speak to someone named Shanin of the Spirit Callers, but we still haven't gone to the Spirit Callers Hall for any reason yet.
And they nod, and Levia says, that place should be known to Mavra as well as me. It is their sanctum, and Shanin is one of the people responsible for maintaining it. I only know of him through what I heard from Mavra before Mavra left temporarily. And Mavra, sort of looking a little bit uncomfortable, nods and says, yes, I would have thought that Shanin is someone we could speak to. I would trust him, but then I thought I could trust Astrika. I don't know how far this goes, or what exactly has happened to the spirit callers beyond the ones that I directly contact with, and even those, perhaps I cannot even trust my own senses. If I have any judge of character at all, I would say that Shanin is worth speaking to, but I don't trust my own judgment, not after what's happened with Astrika.
All right, well, maybe we'll see him tomorrow, perhaps. But that was about everything we've learned, I think.
And Levia says, then I must give you some information, some news that is not as productive. Elu and I spent the day trying to speak to the Primarch. The Primarch here, as I said, has the power to, well, do many things. Change the functions of the way things operate down here, even certain physical rules, and perhaps make connections to places beyond. But it is difficult to get in to see him, and truthfully, the Primarch has been preoccupied of late, especially more with the disappearances in Celis. When we finally did get in, he seemed... And she kind of looks over at Elu uncomfortably, and Elu says, disconnected, disinterested, and Mavra says, it's not precisely how I would have put it, and you must remember the Primarch has many things to consider, child. And Elu says, yes, I know all about Primarchs that have other things to consider. And Mavra says, the one there in Camria is not the one here in Celis. Do not generalize, child. You know what happens when that occurs on a scale. And Elu kind of grumbles to herself. And Levia says, it is, however, disappointing that the Primarch could not be of more assistance. He seemed, as Elu said, preoccupied. But he did say that he would take the matter under advisement, and promised that he would speak more to me about this tomorrow. The problem is that we will be speaking to him at the same time you are going to be supposedly at this party. And Elu says, right, well, I know where I'm going to be. You can spend your time wasting it with the Primarch, but I'm going to be with, and Levia holds up her hand and says, you are going to be with me, because I need someone other than myself to be there. And she pauses and then says, if something is wrong. And Elu kind of fine. And Mavra says, Elu, it's all right. I'll be with them. And Elu just kind of shakes her head.
I think It's a good plan. Don't worry about us. We're experts.
Is it possible for Rel to come with us?
And Levia sort of raises her eyebrow. Rel? Well, I suppose, although having a sprite in that ceremony might not be... Well, I don't really know. What do you think, Mavra? And Mavra says, I guess so. I mean, Rel certainly wouldn't have an objection if you said it was okay. And Levia shrugs and says, I have no objection myself. Although Rel is wonderfully loyal and deeply kind and compassionate, she is a little... And she kind of looks over at Elu, who's still not looking back at her, and then she says, impulsive. And you hear outside the window as Rel shoots by. And you see outside of the window, you see this handful of stuff. At first you think it's more of the light, but then you see that it's this sort of bluish green, almost what looks like floating sparkles or glitter. And Elu sort of looks up a bit and, is she going to do that all night? And Levia says, apparently. And you can see that like blue-green sparkles outside the window continue to fall every so often. And Levia says, Rel always does that when she's particularly happy.
Well, Rel has the ability to move about and be in places where we're not, to keep an eye on things, see things that we can't see.
And Elu says, quietly?
I mean, can she do it? If she understands the stakes.
And she sort of like helplessly looks at Mavra, who kind of swallows and then looks at Levia, who also looks back at you, and Levia says, no. And they all sort of at the same time slightly smile. You get the impression, Knowles, that Rel's happy to do it and certainly would understand the stakes. You don't know whether Rel can keep quiet when needed, which doesn't mean you can't take her if you want. Just be aware, Rel is a bit of an X factor.
Well, I was just thinking she could be a drone, but, you know...
Well, yeah, and I mean, and again, and she's not foolish. She's just a little emotional, you know, impulsive a bit.
Jiraxis says, I was going to say, you said you had some news, but you already told us. It's that the Primarch's not being very helpful. I see.
Not as of yet, but I will continue to try. How are you planning on getting into this ceremony exactly? And Mavra explains that she's going to try to get in as this sort of noble and hopeful. And then she says, very well, and the other four of you?
I think myself and Titus were planning on sneaking. Titus, you said you found some places to hide. What were they specifically?
Titus kind of perks up, explains the details of the behind the crystals, the option of doing under the tables, and then the one that was the pathway that leads to the maze, was it? Or was it a corner to another open area?
Yeah, so the area leading to the clearing, and beyond the clearing is the sort of where the cellar is and all that, and to the left of that is this labyrinth. So it's the bend of the cavern that or the passage that leads to the cavern that opens up into this clearing, which is where you think the ceremony is supposed to take place at Dewdreams.
Right. So Titus will explain all of that and then say, there's not really any great options. I don't know what we're gonna do, honestly. Nothing sounds as a place where we're not gonna get discovered at some point.
Do the people who are going in as possible candidates, do they have attendants or servants or anything like that help them?
And Mavra says, from my experience, it depends. They tend to be quite different. Some of them are nobles. Some of them are just common workers. It is all those who believe they have some magical ability and some spiritual calling or resonance. So there may be some with servants and some without. The problem is that they don't announce who they are before the actual ceremony itself. And so I don't know if we know ahead of time if such servants would be there.
Titus looks to the group and says, I understand the value of two of us being there, observing as what happens. But for Jaraxxus and myself, do we really need to be right there to observe? Or do we need to be close by in case there's some action?
Might be better just to do the latter. Also, in case there's anything that's happening not at the ritual location, maybe something happening somewhere else in the garden.
I'm wondering if we can rig something with your camera so that we can take a look at it and watch the room while we're observing the perimeter, for lack of a better description.
This is something I've been trying to do ever since we got here. I have the knowledge to create a permanent a drone is what we'd call it. You see, Jaraxxus then hesitates as he realizes he's talking about technology.
Right, and as you look over, so Elu seems like not particularly concerned. Mavra sort of has the slight brow furrowed. Levia, however, sort of arms are crossed, and she says, "A drone, you would call it."
Right.
Why would we not use their magic if it can help us?
You're saying this to Levia? Nals? And so Levia says, I am aware that technology is a functional part of the world outside. We are all, the Twilight Elves, too aware of that fact. But even if I am able to tolerate it, there are many of my people who do not. And using their magic, as you put it, against them is something we've been told before. Use the weapons of the enemy against the enemy. In our experience, what that did was turn my people into the enemy and drive the rest of us underground. I wonder, Nulls, if you would have felt the same way if your people, wandering in dreams, had decided to use nightmares against those of you who are left.
This particular drone that they speak of, I've seen how it works. It's not a weapon. It would be like Rel if she could be not impulsive.
Outside the window.
Jaraxxus, I don't know if any of the Whisper Winds are particularly insightful, but as Nalik speaks, Jaraxxus kind of blushes a little bit purple in his face, especially when she says it's not a weapon, because he knows that it specifically is a weapon.
Right.
But that's its main function.
Right. Well, actually, that leads to a question for you, Jaraxxus, and I'm going to then... She looks at both of you, Titus and Jaraxxus, the ones not from this planet, and she says, I hear what Nalik has said. I know that Nalik and Fob, though they are from diverse cultures, still come from this planet. But from those of you beyond, those of you who do seem more comfortable with technology, do you know that what you are using here is designed to help, to assist, and not to hurt? Is that what you truly believe? And your eyes kind of like take in both of the two of you. Now, you have a decision, both of you, to make as to whether you want to try to lie about this, or if you're just like, be straight up about what it can or can't do. So that's really dependent on what check or anything may or may not have to be made.
What is their question again? Can you be clear about that?
So she basically is asking you whether this technology that you are both thinking of using, like the drone thing, and that was what you recommended originally, Titus, whether that is something which is purely for beneficial use, or if it is a weapon which has been repurposed for this surveillance, that you're planning on doing. Technology that's been repurposed specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Titus is going to pull a blade
Drax
and hold it up.
His head. Yep.
In front, hold it up in front of everyone.
And Elu kind of, yeah.
This is a tool. This might seem like magic to some cultures because it can do things that it is not possible to do without it. It is a primary tool in some cultures for hunting, gathering. It can be used to help, and it can be used to hurt. But ultimately, it is a tool. Do you agree?
And Levia sort of thinks about it. Perhaps. But it is a tool which we understand the limitations of. Your technology seems to outstrip its limits through its very creation.
Titus then presses a button on his rig. The primary drones that are attached to the rig, they detach themselves and begin to hover around him. Like they're little small, little balls or whatever.
Levia and the others sort of push themselves back from the table a little bit. Not Elu, but definitely Mavra and Levia.
These are also tools. They can help. They help me heal. They help me tend to the wounds that I can't see with the naked eye, or that I can't touch with my paws. And he holds up one of his paws, and you can see that while articulated and very precise, they may not be able to operate in the same way or get to the same places that these other drones can get to. And he looks back and he says, in my hands, they are helpful. They are beneficial. I understand the limits of their benefit. In someone else's hands, they could be used to hurt, to administer a poison, or to inflict physical wounds. The same can be said of the knife. Whereas you understand the knife, I understand it and the drones. It is not a question of whether technology is the problem. It is a question of whether you trust the person using it. Now, and he presses another button and the 4 drones go back and he sheaths the knife at the same time. Do you trust the technology, the knife, and the drones? Or do you trust me? Do you trust Jaraxxus? And then he points to Fob and Nulls. And do you trust their judgment? And he sits back.
And Elu kind of reaches over and puts a hand on her mother's shoulder and says, Mother, I have been with these people. We traveled through the Badlands to get here. We fought together. We also saved together. That creature that you abhor outside, that wolf thing, I didn't trust it either. And I still, and for a moment Elu looks at all of you, I still don't like it. And then comes back to the mother. But despite the fact that it is this abomination of technology, it has fought more honorably than people of our own? Can we say that we are free and clear of what has happened up there, when the people I worked for cannot be trusted? When a Strika, your spirit caller Mavra, perhaps cannot be trusted? They failed not because of their technology, but because of themselves. If I trust them, so should you. I would like a persuasion check from you, Titus. I'm going to ask you to do this at +4. And if anyone has got, in chat or elsewhere, an inspiration they want to throw their way, the inspirations for channel points have been used up for the month. Eberron had a kind of a hairy session, but it's been used up for the month. And there are a couple of other sessions left over with Shire, with Beowulf and so on. But if you wish, you can do that. Otherwise, Titus will just be making this check at the +4. Yeah, sorry, live song. I don't think you do. And as for Titus hand puppets on the merch shop, sign me up for sure. Okay, so Titus, I think you're just making this check. +4 persuasion.
For some reason, Firefox is loading Roll20 slowly, so give me just 1 second.
That's fine.
All right.
Roll20 loads slowly, unprecedented.
The merch shop puppets have to look like the actual drawing, though. It has to be like
an
card
actual
that you put on the cards. Yeah.
All right, so that's a 10 plus your 4, so that's 14.
So Mavra, Levia kind of like, we have long memories, but memories can be treacherous. If you trust them, she looks at Elu, and you do, and she looks at Mavra, then I must do the same. Very well. Your technology, if it can be of help and use, for what it's worth, it is acceptable to me. But it will not be acceptable to my people, or at least many of them. I will spread the word among my family and those that are loyal to me. But for those that are not, for the other noble houses, I cannot speak for them. However, if this will help you solve this problem and bring my child back, then yes, it seems reasonable to me.
When she says her child, is she talking about Nialestri?
Yeah,
that wouldn't be accurate, right?
That's right. So what gets explained later on is that Nialestri was Mavra's best friend, but Nialestri was a fixture in the Whisperwind household, and was almost, calling a child, I wouldn't say that they adopted her or anything, it's not that strong, but the Twilight Elves, especially here, sort of see themselves very much as part of an extended family to begin with, and she in particular seems to care about Nialestri, and certainly Mavra does, to the extent that she thinks of anyone as like a sister. It's like Elu and Nialestri would be her siblings, especially now that her brother is gone. And you get the impression that thing about the brother really has clearly shaken the whole family beyond just the obvious. It's as if the whole core of the family is uncertain.
Draxus will say, well, I certainly appreciate your ability, your willingness to be more open to these things, but perhaps your fears will be allayed for some longer of a time, because I have not been able to manifest this companion, this drone, at all, because I am out of material that's on our worlds, in our systems we call Sorium. And I've been made aware there's some supplies or crystals here that may be equivalent to it, but I have not yet found some that I could get my hands on.
She says, You refer to the energy from the crystals.
Yes, but I think I learned that not all of the crystals are the same. In fact, some, like Titus used, are memory-based. I need some that are for fueling something you'd use for magic.
That is true. And there are crystalline formations that are found deeper in the caverns, places that are extraordinarily dangerous, but where some of those energy sources can be found. And even things that are made from the crystals provide us, well, with many things. And she waves her hand, and the glass goes opaque, just darkens. And suddenly you were inside this almost lightless, except maybe for the glow of the rig and, you know, a couple things like blinking lights on various things inside. And then you hear Levia's voice say, "This can show us many things." And then on the inside of the darkened space of the inside of the windows, you now see what looks like a series of, at first it looks just more like blinking stars, but then you see that they're growing larger and larger, and eventually it feels as if you have a camera that's sort of rushing towards them. And suddenly, with some level of shock, I would say, Titus, both you and Dr. Jaraxis recognize these are the stars of the Silrain Arc. And then there's a pause, and the goes all dark again, and then the windows lighten. And as the windows lighten, I think it's probably Nulls who's looking up, that sees, Nulls, you happen to see, like right in front of the window staring in, is a certain small winged creature who, the minute that she realizes the windows have lightened up, like zips off again with like an even huger cloud of glitter behind as she heads off.
And Jaraxis says, that is some... where I'm from, we would call that impressive technology. You don't happen to have many spare energy crystals, do you?
Sadly, these are built into these very windows themselves. The crystalline structures, when they are first mined and refined by my people, have these magical properties within them. So I do not have extras exactly. They are mostly triggered by my people energetically. That is why, and you talked about the labyrinth already, right, Nels? We did discuss that with her, with Levia, I think. So Levia says that is why when you discussed the labyrinth that you mentioned, it made me think that you may have some resonances with us, because normally the crystals only respond to those of my people, not outsiders.
Jaraxis nods his head and then turns back to Titus and says, well, to answer your question, I can leave my recording units anywhere. I can separate it from my rig, but I'm not sure if I have a way to look at it from a distance. And I'm actually looking right now because I do have a recording unit that says it is a piece of headgear or a body attachment that records panoramic video at all angles, blah, blah, blah. But I don't have any item that describes what lets me watch back my footage. So are we just to assume, or to access it? So are we assume that would be a part of my sim unit?
I would think, or the goggles that you have,
it says, a sim unit is a rig attached to a headpiece, so it could be attached to a recording unit or just my headpiece or something. It allows the user connection to the Silrain intergalactic matrix, and I've been assuming that that's been like kind of offline ever since I've been on the planet.
That's correct. Now, I'm willing to take, ye old GoPro, right, Proxima? I'd be willing to...
The only other thing it says is, it says, unlike regular portable media, a sim unit allows the user to create and modify programs and experience the sim in a virtual reality environment. So I don't know.
So
I've
in other
never used
words,
it yet.
the way I would describe this is, remember I mentioned that there was a possibility that you might be able to develop a kind of ad hoc, like a hotspot, right? Like you could
Right,
kind of create like
right.
an ad hoc local network.
Mhm.
And I
'Cause
could
I
imagine a
actually-
scenario
I
where you
do
could
have-
do something like that.
Yeah. I have 2 sim units actually, because I had 2 different features that each gave me 1. So maybe like through the interaction, maybe that's how it works. Is like I can leave the recording unit
And you could
in
triangulate
one
it.
of my sims, and then use the other sim to connect. Yeah, maybe I could do that.
So
Okay.
if there's any way that this is like this is going to require some sort of like role or some kinds, I imagine as an engineer, not only because I'm not just because I'm specifically a doctor, but as an engineer, I've got mechanics up the wazoo. So maybe we could montage and do a skill roll of some kind, or to kind of rig this up so that we can at least get it to work at least over a relatively short distance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm all about that. Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I remember it's never come up yet, but one of my sim units is from my background of celebrity, and one of the other sim unit is from being a cybermancer. So yeah, I guess one of the goals that I want to work with Titus on, since he brought it up, is creating a mechanic where I have my recording unit, and then I have these 2 sim units, and then I can like attach the recording unit to a sim unit. It's not a drone, so it can't move, and it would have to be hidden, but maybe creating like a LAN network where I could watch the feed through my visor or something.
Yep.
Okay, great.
This is getting
So,
more
yeah,
like leverage all the time, by the way.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
want you to know.
So Titus explains that, and then Draxis explains that, and then says, well, so that's our plan. And then I think Nalik and Fob, although Fob is very good at sneaking, were planning on doing the same thing Mavra's doing, trying to be hopeful spirit-colored initiates.
Bob was intending to be somebody's servant or else skulk. So Bob is still going to try and look like they're with the crowd, but not with the crowd, and just sort of blend in.
Could I be Mavra's attendant? Be by her side in case things go south?
Probably. And if you want, probably Maverick could get away with having the 2 of you as servants. However, the one limitation to and Fob, therefore, once you get there, you could blend into the crowd in the way you described. The only thing I want to point out, though, is that if you want to, as I mentioned, once a Streaka gets there, a Streaka already knows that Mavra is not now, it doesn't mean that Mavra's not allowed to be there, but it means that Mavra won't be able to act as a hopeful anymore either. So,
Right.
And she's already a spirit caller, so she wouldn't be like, okay, let me take you to this ceremony for initiates, right? So if you were going to try to infiltrate that way, to be there in the midst of the ceremony, and again, this is totally up to the party, what the party wants to do. But from the way it's been described to you, then it might be hard if you're just going to be servants to Mavra. That's all. So just something to consider. And remember also that Glimmerleaf did offer to you, just as a reminder, last time Glimmerleaf offered to disguise several of you in a way that would look appropriate for that situation, although it will be much easier to disguise the Fobs and the Nulls of the world than the Tituses and the Draxises of the world. So... But nonetheless, and you don't have to have all of you. It could be just one of you as well that does this, or none. It's up to you. But just so you know, in terms of the spirit caller hopeful status.
See, I've been thinking about that plan, and the question I have is, wouldn't Streaka know how many hopefuls are supposed to be there?
Not necessarily. No. Sometimes
Okay.
people come up and are basically like, we want to join you, and they will pick. They try to pick a lot of different people for the spirit caller initiative, because this ceremony weeds out some of them, basically. I
So
mean,
I'm wondering-
not by killing them, but that's the theory anyway.
So I'm wondering if there could be observers who are interested maybe in becoming hopefuls, but they're not necessarily...
Not at this ceremony.
Okay.
This is only for hopefuls and or spirit caller, in the vicinity / higher ups type of people, but not people who are just interested. Those people get handled over at the Sanctum, where the guy that you heard about, Sanan, can be found. That's kind of where you go when you want to start the process. But by the time you get here, you're a hopeful that is hoping to, step up into the spirit caller ranks.
And Mavra would have to answer this. Are there any parts of this ritual that, like chants or, stuff like that you would have to know? Like, how do you keep yourself from sticking out, even if you are disguised as a Twilight elf hopeful?
You would need to know something of what the spirits are. You would need to know something of the oaths that are sworn to protect the veil, our desire to go back to our home at some point. You would need to be able to understand there is a list of spirit callers, of events in Silesian history. I can teach you some of it, but we would need to work quickly. You get the impression this is like cramming for a test, Knowles.
Yeah, that's the part I'm concerned about.
If you get to that point. Yeah, right.
Yeah. All that, yeah.
It's like that part of Army of Darkness where they're like, well, all right, maybe I didn't say every word exactly solid symbol the right way, but basically I said it, yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how to draw Estrika away where she can be confronted or even removed from the group, because she's a danger to everybody there. That's why I was thinking about gathering her into the labyrinth. And if she thinks that the elders have gathered her there, if the glow is there, maybe we can scare her into thinking the elders are after her because she has been quite a naughty girl.
I think that's actually not a bad idea.
I like that idea.
Because they would be very spiritual, you'd hope. Yeah, I'm not sure how you'd pull that off. Hey, don't you have that invisible uncle of yours?
Yes, Uncle Bones. He could be persuaded to come out and play now that we have rested fully.
And Mavra says, Uncle, what?
Uncle Bones, he's a friend of mine who can be conjured up. I can get him to take on a certain appearance. He can't necessarily speak, but he can be directed.
And she nods slowly, kind of this like, I see.
So he could lead her into the labyrinth. How much does she trust you still?
And Mavra says, a week ago, I would have said she thought I was quite promising as a spirit caller. Now, I don't know. I've tried to be circumspect, but if there are shadowy, cloaked figures attacking you, it's possible that she's found out, or that they've found out and reported me to her. I haven't been arrested yet, or stopped, but I don't know the limits of Ostrika's knowledge now. She hasn't acted the way that I have grown to understand her over many months.
Well, let's say she finds you a little bit shady, just a little bit suspect. What if, though, you told her that you had been able to contact someone beyond the plane? That would be Uncle Bones, of course, but she doesn't need to know that. And that presence was with you, and you wished to introduce her to that presence. You wished for her to experience the wonders that you had. I mean, she seems to be up for any power, any way that she can get it, right?
In fact, this leads to an interesting line of thinking. Perhaps, Mavra, you could play the part of trying to join whatever treachery Ostrika is up to. Now, admittedly, we don't know exactly what it is, but I don't know. Maybe that's a route.
Perhaps, but we won't know any of this until we're actually there in the moment. She may say that this is all part of the plan of the spirit callers and that all of what we've said is untrue, or she may give into it or agree or attack us or do none of those things. I don't know. It's possible, but we'll have to decide it when it happens.
You said that during the ritual you have a vision. What if I were pretending to have a vision and she saw Uncle Bones rise up from my very being and walk towards the labyrinth? Would that draw her away?
It might. It might also cause all of the spirit callers there acting as security and to make sure that you are rendered unconscious for your own safety.
Oh, well, that wouldn't be pleasant for me now, would it?
Elu, who with every discussion of bad things that can happen, has like folded and crossed her arms even more tightly in the I can't believe I'm not going to be here to screw things to like, I can't, this Elu is Elu, she's a person of action. She is like, this is some crap that I have to not be part of this.
Yeah, I kind of want it all over there myself, anyway.
Yep.
All right, well, we have some options, but it sounds like, at least for a time, we'll need to watch what's going on. Hopefully Titus and I can create a situation where we don't have to be too close to be seen, and instead look through my magic ways of scrying, and then go from there.
I know, Mavra says, that she usually appears about a half hour after the ceremony begins. At least that's how she did it with us. And so if you have a chance to get there, speak to some of the hopefuls, everyone hide where they're going to hide, then we can be prepared for when Astrika appears. Of course, tracing her will be impossible before then. She arrives through a portal, as I mentioned. But at least you'll have a chance to get the lay of the land before then.
In fact, while Nalik and Mavra, you are being very present in the ritual for the first 30 minutes, perhaps we could talk to Glimmerleaf, and when she gets the shipment of the wine that's meant to be used, that they're not going to use, maybe Titus and I can analyze it just while we're waiting.
Mavra nods. It seems reasonable.
All right, we have some idea of planning. Thank you for the meals.
Levia stands and she says, "It is my pleasure. Thank you for helping. And if we can solve this problem, perhaps that, along with my entreaty, will allow finally the Primarch to listen and give you the help that you need. In the meantime, please take your rest. Nothing will disturb you." And outside, and Levia says, "Not even Rel when I tell her to stop, which I'm going to do now." And Levia sort of smiles slightly and nods, and then says, "Have a peaceful evening." And she puts a hand on the shoulder of Elu, and then another one on the shoulder of Mavra, and then turns and departs. And that's a good spot for us to take our break before the party itself. You are watching day 26 of Expedition for the Mysterious Peak, sponsored by Alligator Alley Entertainment. We call this Shadows in Twilight. And I am joined by the amazing crew of Johnny Pittman and Toya Kristen Finley and Kat Rambo and Zach Clay. And if you enjoy what you see in here, remember not just to follow the channel, support the Patreon and all that good stuff, but also make sure to cheer, because if you cheer in chat, those cheers, those bits will be distributed among the players when we've collected enough of them together. It's 9:34, so we will take, if folks are okay with just like say a 6-minute break, so we come back at like 9:40 if that's cool, and then we'll play until 10:30. So we'll go after that and go get ready to get your party on, chat. But players will be back about 6 minutes. Until then, everybody hold tight. All right, welcome back, everybody. Welcome again to day 26 of Expedition from the Mysterious Peaks. Welcome back from your break, and welcome to a party, just about anyway, as we are about to get rolling. I see also that we have been joined by Gamork, being played today by Toya's awesome dog. So that's how that works. You can see the fierceness. It really is amazing, like how well she's thrown herself into that, Toya, you know?
Yes, friend of the show, Keiko, has not made an appearance in a while, so I thought I brought her in. She hates sitting on my lap for a long time, which is why I don't usually bring her in. But yeah, she hasn't said hi in a while, so
Hello,
I thought I'd
Keiko.
Bring her along.
It is good to see. It does my heart good always to see an awesome dog. So that's cool. So welcome, Keiko, and welcome everybody. All right, let us get rolling then. So, when the next morning arrives, first of all, we get the benefit of that long rest this time. And so during the long rest, it means all of your hit points are restored. So let's take care of that first of all. So all hit points are restored. You're going to need to redo that temp, I think, Draxus, right? Because
yes.
After the long rest.
And I keep forgetting that. So basically, because I can do it at will, I mean, we assume that I'm at the average. That's just what we'll do, because otherwise I would just be in the morning casting Innervate until I happen to roll the max roll. But
I don't know what you're talking about. Under no circumstances do I know about what it's like to re-roll stats repeatedly in a game until I get the best ones. That never happens. Okay.
I think it's 1d4 plus 4. And it only lasts for an hour, but the assumption is that every hour on the hour I'm spending 6 seconds to cast it again. So whatever.
Okay, so we're looking at 6 temp right now. Okay.
Yep.
Lovely.
I also have a quick thing that may take place before we long rest. We don't have to role play it out, but on our break, I was looking through my old notes, and I remembered when we were with the Kyrios troop. And we were talking with City and Miko that I paid Miko 10 gold.
Yep.
And Miko agreed to create a full-sized, incredibly accurate ceramic statue of me. And he said that he would have to visit that same night to get my likeness or something like that. Is at least what the note that I had under that is that he would have it delivered to House Whisperwind in a day or two. So I don't remember if he's already gotten my likeness and I have to wait a day, or if he would have come.
The former. He doesn't have it yet. You would probably give him your likeness tonight, this night, after you do your long rest. I should say so tomorrow, I guess, from the game point of view. After your long rest. But yes, I have a note in all caps about that very thing, so I had not forgotten. I mean, all that stuff that we talked about literally happened yesterday.
Right.
So it was like
a long day.
It was quite a day. But yes, so that is I have not forgotten that. But that probably wouldn't happen this evening. That would be the following day. When that stuff.
So he's going to come the following day.
Probably the following. Yeah, exactly. Now you probably could do that. I mean, and as you say, we won't RP this out, but he would come to do that before you left for the party, because remember the party is tomorrow evening, so he would come to do the likeness thing first.
Great.
So and then it wouldn't be delivered to you until a day or so after that.
Another day or two. Okay.
So other beyond that, the other thing to note about long rest is if you used up a hit die. So for example, Fob, you used one, so you get that one back. If you used a hit die, any of your hit dice, you can restore up to half of your total number. So you are all level 4. You have 4 hit dice to begin with. If you've used any of those, you can restore up to 2. So you can get 2 back basically during this long rest. And if any of you have particular kinds of things like certain spell points and different things like that, those things will restore after the process of doing a long rest as well. Sometimes there are things that specifically trigger, like you can do this once every long rest, but that's just dependent on what it says in the given description. Also to note, not that you folks have abused this, but just so you know, you only get the benefit of long rest once in a 24-hour period. So you can't go an hour and then Icewind Dale style long rest again for another 8 hours. And that's not how this works. So seriously, if like based on the way computer role-playing games used to imagine D&D worked, like you would all be like 150 by the time you actually got to the boss, because it's like you fight, you rest after every combat. I'm like, every time you're doing this, it's 8 hours. Like you play, like when I left, I was 18 years old, and now at the age of 84, like good gravy, Yeah, no 33-hour rest stops. Exactly, Tim Coolish. That's what I'm saying. Okay, so when the next day comes, you were all able to make your preparations. Now, quick question. We already talked about Jiraxis getting the likeness from Miko. Are the other three of you, are there other preparations that you are making? Again, we don't have to role play this out, but are there any preparations that you're making prior to attending the party with Mavra?
Knowles just needs to make sure she comes across as a believable hopeful, or someone who can be talked into becoming a hopeful.
Okay. Yep. The disguise kit the disguise that's going to be done with Glimmerleaf, which means you'll probably want to get there somewhat earlier rather than later, actually. You'll want to make sure that you're not getting there like right at the party, but, a little while before, so you can be properly disguised.
Bob has been observing these various cultural significances and has solved the key to appearing upper class.
Okay.
Fob is cleaning themselves very meticulously. So Fob is just resplendently clean at the moment.
So like scales gleaming is what we're talking about, right? Like, oh yes. Man. All right. Yeah. Like, so I like the image that unfortunately you weren't in the room having dinner, because I had this image of like disco ball style, like the lights from the inside just glittering off of this. Okay, yeah, so that definitely works. And in fact, when Rel is kind of zipping around the next morning to sort of see how all of you are doing, she's kind of taken aback when she sees you, Fob. And says, "Oh, that Fob, you look amazing. I mean, that just amazing. And she drops her voice. When you hide in the shadows, aren't you gonna like glitter or something? No? That's not how it works? Okay, well, you must know your business." And then like zips off. Okay. So looking forward to the shadow moment. Yeah, you're looking quite good, Fob, in that regard.
I do think Jiraxis and Titus were going to work together either last night or today on the whole mobile recording unit LAN thing.
Yep. You think you have that set up to go. That, again, is going to be something that you're going to presumably, hey, Drew, that presumably you're going to set up like on site, so that you can triangulate, those areas. Because it's a limited area that you can get that in, but you can get it into an area, but you need to like set it up ahead of time.
Okay, got it.
So, okay. So assuming everyone has done what they need to do, the last note or the last question is about what you want to do with Gamork. Clearly, Gamork is helpful in combat, but it is going to be pretty difficult to explain what a tricked out tech-based direwolf is going to be doing in a spirit caller party. So
can Gamork hang out in the cellars in case he is needed?
Oh,
possibly. You could certainly bring him along and see whether Glimmerleaf is cool with that.
Well, I mean, Gamork helped her out the other day, so Glimmerleaf should be cool with it.
Probably. Probably. Yeah.
Yeah, well, when you say it like that, of course.
Okay, so you're bringing Gamork along. Yeah. And when Mavra appears, now you may remember that Mavra had the cloak that she met you with, and then when afterwards you saw her as, I don't know if I still have the picture. I don't think I have the picture right now. Maybe over here? Yes, I do. On the map side, I do. So she had this look. But this look is what she has, sort of. When you see her next, you can actually see, and I'm doing this on stream in case you're curious, you can actually see that she has replaced that cloak with something that almost seems to ripple as you look at it. Not just in the wind, because there's no obvious wind around, but it seems to shimmer in the twilight of the ceiling above, and you almost get the sense as you're watching, obviously it's some kind of optical illusion, but it almost looks as if Mavra's kind of floating above the ground slightly. And when Mavra sees you, she sort of smiles and says, "Well, we're as prepared, I suppose, as we can be for the party. And now," and then she looks at, she sees you, Fob, and she nods and she says, "That's a good look. Yes, I think that should work well. Now, Nulls, what about you? Nulls, what have you done? I know you said you wanted to look as much like prepared for a hopeful. You don't have to go into great detail about this, but like, what did you emphasize? Did you decide like a simple cloak or a tunic, or like, what are you trying to do when you're going for that look?"
I don't want to stand out.
Okay.
I want to look like, because Knowles has no idea. She's never seen what a hopeful looks like. She does not want to stand out, so she would go with Mavra's discretion of what she should be wearing.
Okay. So she takes, she sort of makes a couple of suggestions, but what you're doing there is pretty close, she thinks, to what you would probably need. Because one of the notes about this is that the spirit callers, the hopefuls, again, the spirit callers command respect from all members of society because all members of society contribute, right, to the sort of spirit caller rank. So it means that they take anyone, and it's just about your faith, not your wealth or your good fortune. And so she adds some things. One thing she does do for both Fob and Nulls is Nulls is going to be the hopeful. Fob, you're going to act as the servant, not as a hopeful, right? Okay. So for you, Fob, she doesn't have to do this for you. But for Nulls, she does, as she's sort of like setting you up for all of this, she does put a kind of a, I guess the way it would be described is kind of a brooch of these two interlocking, they look almost like hands, sort of like grasping each other like this. And they are surrounded by 3 stars above and 3 stars below. And she tells you that this is basically, hey, Prince Justin, good to see you. That this is basically the kind of look that hopefuls typically have, and that if all goes well, then you are granted the spirit callers, clothing and outfits and things like that, so that this is the thing that is typically given to hopefuls. And Mavra explains that it is hers, that she was given when she was a hopeful. That's why she still has it, and she's lending it to you. And so she gives it to you to fasten. And then as you're all ready to go, Gamork comes up. Now, Gamork has, to be clear, not cleaned up. Gamork has not decided to look impressive. More impressive than he already does. And when Gamork comes up, he seems even more sort of grouchy than usual. And he comes up to you and then sort of turns away and takes a few steps forward. And Mavra says, Is he all right?
He's just being himself.
And he seems to be waiting for you to get on with it already and get over to this place. So assuming you do that, we're going to have you trace a similar path back to Dew Dreams. Quick question for the party. How early do you want to arrive for the ceremony? Remember, you were told that Astrika arrives about a half hour after it starts, and the garden is closed down to all but people doing the ceremony basically after the thing begins. So do you want to arrive, an hour ahead, 2 hours ahead? You don't arrive if you arrive too early, it's going to mean that you won't be able to set up the way you want. So it's up to you. 1, 2, got to be fashionably late. It depends on the nature of the fashion, I suppose. But yes, do you want to arrive an hour early, 2 hours early, half hour, 45 minutes?
I'd like to suggest that if we arrive too early, we may end up calling attention to ourselves. And so perhaps 15 to 30 minutes before Asrika arrives might be good.
I think you mean, Fob, a half hour before the ceremony, because she arrives.
The ceremony.
Right, because she arrives a half hour after the ceremony starts. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then that's perfect.
Okay. Is that what the party wants to do?
I agree.
Okay. So you, without difficulty, are able to arrive. And when you turn that passageway corner into the clearing, the Dew Dreams has been transformed. It is decked out in decor. There are banners of purple and white and gold that are now lining this clearing that are there. And you also notice that there are a couple of security, couple of guards that are basically at the front entrance. And when you cross over, the one who looks like kind of a sort of a tougher Twilight elf who sort of glowers at you and says, all right, this isn't for outsiders. And Mavra says, we are not outsiders. My name is Mavra Whisperwind. I am a spirit caller myself, and I have joined here with a hopeful and with several others. And the guy, the minute she says, I am Mavra Whisperwind, is like, yes, sorry, I didn't, excuse me, yes, absolutely, please, you can enter, and all that. And Mavra just, like, literally is, like, pushes past him before he's done. Totally different than the way she normally acts. He's like, and then she just pushes through him, and he's like, as you go by. And so you're able to follow if you wish, as he sort of stares after her. And once you get past the guard, Mavra whispers back to all of you, I hate doing that, but it's what they expect. So you notice that there are some assistants kind of gathering around, some of whom you recognize from yesterday. And then, of course, Glimmerleaf herself, who bustles up as you arrive and says, Good. I wanted to make sure you wouldn't be late for this. All right, let's see. And she says, she looks at you, Fob, and she says, Yes, I can see it. All right, that'll be good. You will fit in, I think, as one of Mavra's servants here, as one of the attendants. And then looks at you, Knowles, and says, I see. Yes. And then she kind of does one of these things, like, no. It starts doing the photo, wait here. And she kind of rushes off, and she stops. She says, wait, before I go, do any of you else need to do anything while I'm taking care of this?
We'd like to store our direwolf in your, you might end up using the cellar. Somewhere where it will not be interacted with, but still nearby. And we are going to, I point at myself and Titus, post up also some, you know what, maybe we'll be with Gamork. How about that?
And so she says that, and the attendants are kind of looking down at Gamork, and Gamork is, and they're all like, they look over at Glimmerleaf, and she says, absolutely. And so she bustles off to get the disguise kit. You can set Gamork if you want. You can actually set him in the cellar, because you may remember there are a lot of barrels and stuff like that. So you could set him, if you wish, behind that row of barrels, if you want him to wait there. Although presumably Knowles would need to explain. I don't think Titus has the ability to speak to him yet. So Knowles would presumably need to explain to Gamork what you want from Gamork, and then see if Gamork goes along with it. But do you want to do that, Knowles, or am I wrong with that?
I'm going to try to explain through gesturing, because I want to hold on to speak to animals if I need to. I
thought you might. That's fine. He basically is able to get the idea that you want him behind the barrels. And Draxus and Titus, and I suppose Knowles, as you head out with them, you explain that, and then Draxus and Titus cover it. But as Draxus and Titus are leaving the cellar, Titus, you have this, or I think Draxus probably, because Titus is connected still with Gamork. But Draxus has this uncomfortable experience of looking back into the shadows of the cellar and just seeing these gleaming eyes over the barrels that are sort of looking at you as you depart.
I think too that part of the plan with Titus and Draxus is that we're gonna set up a little, while they're on the active part of the Mission Impossible mission, we're the crew in the truck that's doing all the programming.
Right.
So I would imagine actually Draxus will indicate to Gamork that we'll actually be back, and I think maybe we'll make the cellar like our home base, especially
your tech base, so to speak.
Right, because if the foul wine is going to be delivered, then that's a perfect place to look at it. And also, I guess the only thing that Titus and I need to do is figure out where we are going to place our recording unit, and then we'll head back.
Yes, and let me ask about that while we're on that subject. So for the recording unit, what are you planning on as far as the recording unit is concerned? Like, where do you want to place? So let's say you have 2 of those sim units, right? So
That's right.
where are you going to place them within the garden? You know the basic structure as I've described it. You've got the labyrinth, you've got the house with the cellar, you've got the clearing within which the ceremony takes place, and then you've got the passageway leading out into the caverns again, and there's that bend around the caverns. So if the ceremony is taking place in the clearing, then where do you want to set your sims?
Is there I'm under the impression that I need one sim on my person to be able to perceive what the other sim is experiencing. Here's my thought is I wonder if we can use some degree of disguise, and maybe we could get Glimmerleaf's help with this, since she said that she knows how to do this. Maybe somehow we could make this sim unit, which it says it's a rig that attaches to a headpiece, make it look like some sort of circlet or something, and actually put it on Fob or Nalik, like true Mission Impossible style. Like they have a camera that lets us, Titus and I, see through it.
Could get that. You could, either one of those would work. On Fob, the circlet would reflect with the scales, so it would be all glittery all the time. On Nulls, it would look like it would be part of the disguise. Either one works if you want to do that way.
And when we talk to Fob, so Fob, is your plan that you are also like wearing a robe and acting like a spirit caller or spirit caller attendant, or are you hiding because
Fob is currently blending into the crowd as an attendant.
Oh, okay.
But may fade into the shadows if circumstances seem to merit such an action.
So I guess then the question is, well, let me not get ahead of myself. Can I work with Glimmerleaf to make this sim unit and recording thing look not obtrusive?
Yes, you think so. Although it is certainly possible that if someone were to, is that even real? And like pull the circle out, like, I mean, there could be an unmasking moment theoretically, but otherwise, yes, it can look like it would fit into the normal sort of outfit of a hopeful. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll say, well, between the 3 of you that are going to be on the grounds, Mavra and Fob and Nalik, Titus and I will be able to look from a distance. We do have two-way communicators. I have one, and Titus, I know you have one. Maybe we'll give one of those as well. And we'll be able to see everything, but I'm wondering who would be best to do this. My inclination maybe is Fob, because Naliko, I would give it to you, but maybe at some point you won't be able to accompany where Ostrika goes in case that plan doesn't go right. Maybe Mavra would, but
Fob will be able to move around. I'll just be in one spot. That won't be so useful.
Oh, where are you going to be posted?
Well, I'm going to be in with the hopefuls.
Oh, yes. I was thinking at some point, are you going to, with the leading Ostrika to the labyrinth plan, that's something only Mr. Bones or maybe Mavra would do, not just yourself, right?
Well, I was thinking, Mavra warned us that if they see Uncle Bones coming from me, that could cause some problems, but if Mavra's not actually a part of the ritual, perhaps she can get Ostrika's attention, and maybe Uncle Bones can stand beside her and they can gesture Ostrika out.
Okay.
And at that point, perhaps I can steal away to the labyrinth.
Draxus will take this little setup and give it to Fob, we'll say.
This is a tiara?
Yes, sure. I would say circlet, but they're kind of the same thing, so whatever you wish.
We'll take it over to the mirror and spend quite some time adjusting it, and then return and simply nod.
All right. And with this, go. You are a pro.
Wah, wah.
Wow.
Sponsored by.
And then
Yeah,
everybody looks
no.
around to see where the sound effect came from.
Yes.
Oh man. Good
A
times.
couple of
good
elves
times.
in black and white suits and sunglasses come up saying, "Hey, we're here for copyright." That's good.
Yeah, exactly. Demonetized.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Well, Draxus says, "Best of luck. That's all the prep that I have. We're going to go hang out with the Mork. Right, Titus? Any prep that you want to do?"
Titus kind of shakes his head and begins to move back towards where Gamork is.
All right.
He's more concerned about us hiding down there when the wine appears.
And Nolik says one last thing to Mavra. Now, if I'm able to conjure up Uncle Bones, you should be able to feel his presence. Just make sure he's beside you before you call Astrika out.
And Mavra nods slowly and says, "All right, I'll try to keep that in mind. Whatever this Uncle Bones seems like or feels like. He still seems a little like uncertain about what the true definition of Uncle Bones actually is. Elu would know, of course. Okay. So, one quick note, last bit of housekeeping, which is that just as you were heading into the cellar, Glimmerleaf pulls Titus and Draxus aside and shows you that the case of the special wine has been delivered. And she shows you the case. And the case is not enormous, but it's enough, probably about 8 bottles of this wine that would be used to serve. And she says, what do you want me to do with it?
Leave it with us and do anything you can to make the wine that you will be serving seem as convincing as possible.
And she says, I'll do that. Just be careful. I don't want any more fungus attacks down here. And good night, Hilness. And so she nods and leaves. And not very long after that, actually, Fob and Nulls, you notice that the hopefuls, the rest of the hopefuls, there have been 1 or 2 maybe that are sort of wandering around, but the rest now begin to arrive. And there are a decent number of them. By the time the ceremony begins, has officially started, there are about 10 of those, you would guess, that have gathered. And they look to be drawn, as was promised, from all sort of walks of society. There are a couple of fae there, so you do notice there is a sprite or 2 among their number, not Rel. And then the rest of them are Twilight elves, but they all look to be from different types. You can see a couple that, like Mavra, have the sort of noble cloak and crest and so on. And then you can see some which, although they are dressed for the ceremony, kind of bear the marks of their trade. You're pretty sure you see one of them that might have been like a merchant in the sort of area actually came to this, although not one of the merchants that you directly dealt with, but was there. And they are all beginning to mill about. And as the ceremony begins, Glimmerleaf steps forward and says, welcome. And everyone sort of stops, and she says, it is a great honor for me as the founder and the leader of Dew Dreams Wine Garden to welcome you all to this hopeful spirit caller ceremony. And there's some like polite clapping and so on. And she says, there is wine and pastries for you all to feel refreshed before your own spiritual fulfillment awaits. I trust you will find all of the both food and wine, she pauses for maybe an extra split second if you were paying attention, will be to your liking. In the meantime, of course, as is the tradition, no one will be allowed to depart. And she turns, and you can see that the guards have now moved in front of the entrance to the cavern. And since Titus and Draxus, you're watching this through Fob's, tiara thing, you realize, Titus, that it's a good idea you didn't try to wait outside the cavern because they are blocking that path off now. So at the very least, it would have been hard to see, and getting in there would have been interesting. So, the people begin to mill about. Fob, you're standing next to Mavra and Nalls. And at one point, someone comes over to you and says, and this is a fairly, I guess you might say, robust looking Twilight elf. Maybe it's hard to tell with elves, but maybe of middle years, and says, well, it's good to see that there are other hopefuls here, and to see that they've allowed even outsiders into the mix, although I can't quite tell. It looks like you may have been here. I'm not really familiar. What if you don't mind my asking, what is your name? What do you expect we're going to see at the ceremony? And saying this to you, Nalls, as the hopeful.
My name is Myrna.
Myrna, yes. Well, I am Kelavis. It is a pleasure to meet you. And yes, well, we're here. I knew that it would be a spectacular venue, but I didn't know it would be quite like this. It's, of course, I've eaten in better places naturally and so on, but all that is behind me now. It's about seeing beyond the veil. I imagine that have you had the chance to see beyond the veil yourself to this point?
Who can say? Sometimes in dreams I'm wondering if the elders are calling to me. Have you ever experienced that?
Well, the elders, in a way, speak to us in everything. I wish that I could have avoided their call, but as it is said, sometimes greatness is thrust upon one. And so it was with me. There I was, waking up that morning, having my usual breakfast of pancakes served to me, and one of my servants came before me and said, "Do you realize?" And then I couldn't hear them anymore. Then it was just a rushing sound in my ears, and there, glowing against the walls, I saw the light of what must have been the elders. I knew at that point that I was destined to be a spirit caller. No more pancake breakfast for me, I'm afraid. Yes. So, no, I haven't spoken to them, but as it were, we are in close contact. And he kind of winks at you.
You've seen a glowing light?
Yes. Several of them, actually.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. Was it just that once?
Well, yes. I came to, at that point, the sanctum and spoke to them, and they questioned me, and they said that it was possible that I had some hopeful possibilities, and I certainly appreciated that. Took a little while to get to see the main people involved, but with just a little bit of extra funding, I was able to get through. You understand how that works? Well, perhaps you don't.
Yes.
Yes. But anyway, no, I've only seen the true light was that one time, but I'm sure they're there. I can feel it in my bones. Tell me, when did you see? You said you spoke to the elders. When did this happen? Did you speak to them every day, or when did it happen?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's such a fleeting thing. Dreams tend to bleed into one another sometimes, but it was a dream, and I saw the glow too, and it was like I saw them on the cave walls, and it was like they were telling me to come here.
Amazing. It is truly amazing. They look for us beyond the veil. Well. And then he looks at you and he makes this weird gesture. It looks vaguely like he took his hand, did this, and then went like this. Like he just did a plus sign in front of you and looks at you expectantly. Okay. I would like a performance check from you, please. We're going to see how well we did all that.
Is Fob also in a position like watching all of this too?
I assume, unless Fob is left, but I assume that Fob was next to them. Is that accurate, Fob?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Daraxus
Wait
looks
a
at
minute.
Titus like, uh-oh.
Okay.
Okay.
What? So we're looking at an 11.
Yeah.
So he says, yes, gonna need to, just have to brush up a little bit on those signs, I suppose. Anyway, and so he sort of heads off, but you can see him sort of glancing over his shoulder. You're not 100% sure, Knowles, that he bought your return sign just then. But he doesn't say anything more about it beyond that. There are other local or, other hopefuls around as well. I should ask, do you want to go talk to any of them? And I'm not saying like anyone in particular per se, or is there anything you're sort of orienting yourself towards doing as you await for Astrika? It's probably been about 10, 15 minutes, so she should be showing up in about 10, 15 minutes, you would guess.
I'm more concerned. I'm not going to be staring at that guy, but I want to make sure that he's not going to talk to anybody and say that I'm suspicious or anything like that. I'm going to try to play the shy, young, hopeful and kind of keep to myself and like smile politely at people. And
okay. Fob, are you doing any reconnoitering or sticking, and you don't have to, I'm just asking, or sticking close to Knowles and Mavra?
Bob is sticking close to Knowles in case Knowles needs anything, but also keeping a keen eye on everyone coming and going, and particularly looking for anyone who looks like they might be out of place.
I would like perception check, Fob, and I would like you to do this at +2.
$22.
Okay. Fob, when you were looking around, you catch sight of the 2 guards that I mentioned that are standing kind of at the closing off the ceremony, so to speak. And the guard that originally sort of was kind of pushed out of the way by Mavra, that one at the very beginning, you spot below is also wearing kind of a cloak, not a hooded, shadowy cloak, but just sort of, back from their person. They're wearing sort of standard armor that guards would typically wear. But you note that there's a sort of gleam from their sword as you're watching them, and you're pretty sure you've seen that before. You think this is actually a guard that you saw when you first entered the entire realm. You may remember that when you teleported here, there were some guards that greeted you. And so you wonder, Fob, if this is like, pardon the pun here, if they're moonlighting or like if they're if there's some reason that they're here, or if they're officially here on behalf of the Primarch. But that this guard you don't think is just like your every average ordinary mercenary. You think this is a guard that you saw guarding the realm when you first entered.
So I will look at them and mutter to myself about this in a way that will key anyone watching through the tiara that I've seen this guard before and my suspicions, but I'm speaking so quietly that only if you're next to me would you hear it.
Okay. So Titus and Draxus, that's a good chance for us to remind you that as you're watching this and you see that happen from Fob, you can now see that in the clearing, you have something on the order of about 25 to 30 people. 10 of those look to be hopefuls if you were to judge just by clothing. There are a few attendants for a few of the hopefuls, including your own Mavra and Knowles and Fob. There are as well attendants, and there's probably a good 8 to 9, maybe 10 attendants, and then you've got Glimmerleaf as well. So all told, you've got maybe 25 people inside that clearing. It's a big clearing, so it's not super crowded, but it's also definitely not there's 2 people. Like, there's people who are gathered in like little groups socializing with each other, and you can definitely see that the clearing has filled up a bit. So just as a note, it is not isolated. As yet, incidentally, no one has gone towards, except for attendance, no one has gone to the house, and no one has gone towards the labyrinth, as far as you know. After about another 5 minutes, so roughly 5 minutes before Astrika is supposed to show up, you see someone come up to Mavra. And this is a shorter elf that is, seems to be, she seems fairly quiet as well, and she says, "Oh yes, Mavra, I had not expected to see you here. You're already a spirit caller, aren't you?" And Mavra says, yes, I'm already one. I'm here observing, let us say, on behalf of the callers and also as a representative of the Whisper Winds. And the younger or the shorter elf says, "I see. Well, that seems reasonable. But you have another hopeful here." And Mavra says, yes. And may I introduce my attendant Fob? And points out Fob. And the elf nods to you respectfully. I guess she wouldn't call you Fob. She would call you, I take that back. Did you make up a name for yourself, Fob? I should have asked that before. You don't have to come up with one if you don't want to. I just struck me. I didn't know if you want to be identified.
Reginald.
Got it. So then looks at you, says, "This is Reginald," and the elf nods, and then glances at you and says, Knowles, and says, "And this is the hopeful." Correct me if I got this wrong, Toya. Marina, is that what you said?
Marina.
Marina. Marina. Ah, okay.
Yep.
No. Lovely. Null's secret name. Great. So she says, "And this is Myrna, a hopeful to the spirit callers. I have great hope for her talents." And the shorter elf says, "Coming from you, that's very important." And she turns to you, Knowles, and she says, "My name is Vicine. I was friends with Mavra when we attended school together, and it is a great pleasure to see that she has, well, managed to move from being a spirit caller to being a instructor, if you will, or something." And she kind of looks up at Mavra. Mavra says, No, not an instructor, just someone who is hopeful that Myrna here makes the right decisions. And Vicine says, "Oh, yes, of course. Well, tell me." And she turns to you and she says, "Do you believe that the veil will be pierced, that we will reach across it? Or do you believe that we must forever be separate?" And you get the feeling, Knowles, that this is kind of like a formal question. It's like, to use an example that would be from a religious context, during Passover, when Jews will often say "next year in Jerusalem." Like it has an actual ritual definitional thing to it, right? So it's sort of like that. So will the veil be pierced? Vicine asks you.
Well, we are hopefuls, after all.
And she nods. She says, "Yes, but surely you must have belief, not just hope. Mavra here has faith. Do you?"
Of course, I could not be here without faith.
And she nods and she says, "All of these people, do you think," she lowers her voice, "they're all going to become spirit callers? Surely some of them are not up to snuff, yes?"
Well, that is not for me to judge.
And she nods and she says, "Well, I see that you will not be drawn in." And she sort of takes a step back. "I would like a persuasion check from you. No, performance. I beg your pardon. Just like I asked for before. Performance check for you, Knowles, please. Okay. She and she nods and she says, "But I'm glad you've chosen your hopefuls well. It speaks well of you, Mavra. I imagine even the Primarch would be pleased." And she kind of nods to you, and she turns and walks away. And as she does so, Mavra looks down and whispers to you, Knowles, and to you, Fob, "Vicine, if she's actually a hopeful, she's one of the Primarch's elite security. What is she doing here?" And like, you would not have, I mean, just from her demeanor, you would not have guessed that. But as she walks away, I think probably Fob, you notice this. There is an easy grace about her movement. You think she's maybe been around a fight before. But boy, she would not have looked like it when she first came up to you.
Is she expecting something to go down this evening?
I hope not. And then there is a sort of a murmur in the crowd, and several people you start hearing like, "It's here. She's here. Yeah. Okay." And the people sort of move out of the way, and you see this glimmering, glowing, shimmering light, oval light that broadens and lengthens and then expands. And then stepping through it, you see, on stream specifically, you see... where are you now? Okay, wait. You see something really important, I swear. Okay, you see this. This beautiful Twilight elf steps through. And you can see... as she steps through, she is a slender Twilight elf with knee-length hair and wearing a dark gray and silver robe. And she steps through, and then the portal sort of disappears behind her. And she nods respectfully, and everyone sort of bows to her. And Mavra sort of gives both of you, Fob and Nulls, a meaningful look, and then does this sort of low, careful curtsy. And so what do the both of you do?
I mimic Mavra's movement.
Okay, Fob?
Same.
Okay. So yes, and you notice you've done the right thing because everyone basically is doing the same thing, even the attendants. And when that's done, she speaks, and you don't think it doesn't seem possible that this could be the case, but it feels as if there is somehow her voice is almost drifting towards you as if there were an echo. And she says, my dear friends, it is a pleasure to have all of you here with us, to meet with our elders, to connect beyond the veil. The veil will be pierced. And everyone says around you, the veil will be pierced, everyone says as one. Question, are you repeating that? Both of you? Yes, okay.
Yes.
Yep.
The veil will be as one, you hear everyone say, and she says, it is a privilege to be among you, a privilege to see as the time grows close for your union with the spirits. I wish to speak to each of you individually, and then we will move to the stage that we've been waiting for, as we as a people move closer to the spirits beyond. You are welcome. And when she lifts her hands, Nulls behind her, you can see the labyrinth and the walls around you shimmer and glow, like it did for you, except when she raises her arms, all of the walls around glow as one, and then sort of drop. And Mavra says, she's made her appearance. And Ostrika sort of smiles and nods at everybody, and then sees Mavra and says, Mavra, why, it is good to see you. Who do you have here? And Mavra says, bows respectfully and says, Ostrika, please do not take my presence here amiss, but I have a hopeful for you, one in whom I trust. I believe that the potential here is great. Ostrika comes up and gazes into your eyes, Nulls. Her eyes are dark, almost fathomless. And as she looks at you, she sort of looks for a while in her perfectly smooth face. And then she says, potential. It is potential we seek. It is potential we wish to see. And that's where we're going to bring our session for a close tonight.
Ooh, baby.
At the beginning of our session, we will be starting right out with a streak at talking with Knowles and then seeing what happens there.
Oh, yeah.
So she's here. See, she seems fine, super friendly.
Yeah.
No
I
problems.
mean, she looks like a big old bitch, but anyway.
How could you say that about a perfectly innocent spirit?
I mean, I seen the bitch on the screen, and she looked like a big old bitch.
I really would love it if you're actually like accidentally in character. Look, I don't care. Like all of a sudden everyone's like, wait, what? Like Titus and Draxus are like in the cellar. Abort. Like Gamork is like, whirr, like oh my God. So much fun. I am very excited to see how you all really conduct the party and what is going to happen. And I do want to say this is not spoiling anything for anybody. It gets very crazy after this point. So I am very excited to see how this crew manages it. I've really enjoyed the sections. I've enjoyed the whole adventure, of course. But since you've been down in Celis, I've been having so much fun watching as you all interact with the environment and do your little detective investigation act. And I cannot wait to see what's going to happen next as Ustrika continues to stare into your soul.
As
Yeah,
you
Shrika
mentioned
better be ready for me, because I got something for her.
I know.
I wrote a note down. I'm ready for her. She better be ready for me.
Okay.
As you mentioned it, Greg, it isn't this module that we're going through, of course, is based on an earlier Mysterious Peaks module, right? Is that?
It isn't. I wouldn't say based on. It is inspired by
I
Expedition
see.
to the Barrier Peaks. So it was inspired by that. This goes in,
Expedition.
From the Mysterious Peaks. But it was an incredible module at the time because it really was like technology where like a crashed spaceship where you're not allowed to tell like the players that's what it is. So you describe like circuit panels as like having strange threads on them and strings and like very, very cool for the 80s when it came out. And it had this like vibe that was very almost haunting, I would say. And that's kind of what I think they sort of were inspired by. I feel it most keenly with Celis, although as you get out of it and you get more of that mix, like when you had the battle with the lady with the blood, it felt a little bit like that to me, where it was this weird amalgam of the woman in the wood and then also the technology. Yeah.
Because I was curious as you mentioned it, it all goes crazy from here. I was like, oh, is this like something based on what happened in the past? But
no,
it almost sounds like Celis and all this stuff here wasn't even in the original module.
No, not that. No, this has all been expanded substantially beyond that, and I don't think Celis existed in the context of what it is now. But yeah.
Okay,
So
cool.
I am excited for it. So great stuff from the group. Zach, I'll start with you. Really enjoyed this today. I think that I loved the little interaction of technology with both you and Johnny as Titus, really kind of getting a sense of what it's about, the whole tools tech thing. I'll talk about that when I get to Johnny, but I think it's true that you were all sort of thinking about how to set things up and also have your own questions answered. And clearly, Levia knows about these things, but is deeply suspicious because, if your people had been almost wiped out and driven underground by by a tech disaster, you probably wouldn't be too crazy about it either. So it's understandable why they have that level of suspicion. But I thought it was interesting seeing you play out that idea. And then, yes, this image of you in the wine cellar just acting as the leverage tech crew is really cracking me up as a concept here. How'd you feel about today's session? Where will the fine folks find you next?
Yeah, today's session was awesome. I think when that situation arose of the whole technology conversation, I was having the exact same thought that Titus then had of the argument of like, well, a sword is a tool and it's not the tool itself, it's whose hands it's in. And then Johnny just took that away and went where I could never have gone. Like it was great. I was like, I was in my head, I was like, I should talk about swords. And then Titus like gives one of the best speeches of the entire campaign so far. So yeah, that was great, and all of our prep and getting here, and I'm very curious what'll happen. Has Nalik finally met her charismatic match? or is this just yet another Lady of Blood that will defeat and move
We've
to the
seen
next
ladies of blood like you before. Yeah.
we've defeated strange ladies in the woods like you before. You're no different. So yeah, that was it was great. It was a lot of fun, and you will find me here next time for sure for the shenanigans that we'll be up to for Mysterious Peaks. I'm also a part of the Our Vocalists, which we are, I think, the 30th.
Yeah, we're aiming for that,
scheduled.
hoping that you're able to do it.
Yes.
I know you may not be able to, but hoping.
Yes, which I think I can already say that I won't, because the Alien show that I'm a part of, that would theoretically be the last Alien Day.
Is the 30th? Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, because we had to delay an episode, and so we pushed everything forward 1 week. But yeah, the next 2 Tuesdays, for those that are listening, I'm a part of this Alien campaign. We actively have a xenomorph on our ship as of this past session. So
that's great.
These last 2 sessions are going to be very interesting. And then, of course, next month, you'll see me as part of the Our Vocalists. Also, I'm not going to forget this time, you will be seeing more of our Greg and my show, called Gen GMs, Generational GMs, not Gen Gen, but Gen GEN for generational.
Yes. No, not shorts like that. Yeah.
Yes. Where we are GMs of 2 different generations talking about and exchanging tips and stories and experience and just having a good old time. So you'll find us on YouTube. You can already find us on YouTube. And then shorter clips will be on TikTok, and then as we expand out to all the other dang social medias that are out there nowadays.
And that's coming then I should say, just to jump in, that's coming. Those shorts are coming pretty much like this week, I think, is when they're going to start coming. So we're going to be putting them out there along with the long episodes, and we have a video editor, and we'll announce who the video editor is within the next few days. But we're very excited. He has done a great job, and if he is in chat, and he is in chat, maybe, I'll just say if he is in chat, then we're going to talk more with him shortly. But we are very pleased with the video work that he's doing, so we're excited. Yeah,
it's a very hard and at times, even when it isn't hard, very strenuous and time-lengthy job. So very thankful to have an editor, and it really makes a difference nowadays. So yeah, you'll find us as part of that show, and you may find me in other places soon, maybe. But otherwise, I'm here, and I'm happy. And thanks for a great session. Good jamming, Greg.
Thank you. And always a pleasure. Good stuff, Zach. Moving right along. Kat, good stuff from Fob as well. I love the image of the super sparkly, clean Fob ready for action. And the fact that Fob is wearing the tiara, I think, is also great. And I was struck by one of the things that I've really loved getting to know about Fob, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, because Fob is so perceptive, being able to pick up on things, not just combat oriented, but the fact that it immediately occurred to me that Fob would be the one to notice something potentially about a guard, or notice something about the way that this person walking away Vicine is like more than she appears to be, and all that. I really love that image of Fob being particularly perceptive when it comes to things like that, and picking up information that can be of great use later on. And so I'm excited to see where that information may or may not be used later on, both in terms of emotional, but especially tactical analysis in this case. I was thinking about it. So that was cool to watch, and I am looking forward to seeing how Fob kind of handles all of that sort of thing. How did you feel about today's session, Kat? Where will the fine folks find you next?
I felt it was fun as always. This is always a terrific group to play with. Where will people find me? If you're around next weekend, I will be at Main Street Books in West Lafayette, Indiana, to celebrate Independent Bookstore Day, which I'm really looking forward to. And then after that, I think the next thing I'm going to be at is Gen Con, as far as public appearances go. And looking forward to that. So
that's going to be a good time. We will be there with you. Are you doing anything at the Nebulas, Kat? For part
I
of
am not.
Okay. Okay. I just found out I am going to be doing a Nebula thing, so that's cool. I'll be speaking on a panel about what writers can learn from video games. So I will be on a panel about that, which should be cool.
Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Video games, what are they good for?
No, yeah, come on.
Absolutely.
Who needs those?
They put you on the middle grade dragons panel. I mean, that also is awesome. I can see why, Emily. But anyway, thank you, Kat. Very excited to have you back here next month with more of this. Moving on up to Toya. What is the question mark for? It makes sense to me. The middle grade dragons panel. What? Well, okay, because the middle grade doesn't make sense. The dragons make sense.
Maybe the panel doesn't.
I'm 47. Well, you don't need to be middle grade. The heck? And yeah, right for adult. Well, yeah. Look, all right. I was on. Never mind. I should tell you this story about the first time what Worldcon in 2009 decided to put me on. That was interesting. A panel on YA panel on. I can't even remember what the topic was, but it was clearly something that I didn't necessarily belong with on. And then the other panel was on a panel about the singularity, sitting next to Peter Watts, who spent most of his time being like, "That's not the singularity. No, that's not the singularity," to everyone around me. So like everyone was like, "What about this?" Nope, it's not that either.
Peter Watts, master of the singularity.
If you know Peter Watts, certainly a wonderful writer. So but it was just very funny because like. I was like, what am I doing here?
What everyone didn't know is Peter Watt was the singularity.
Was the singularity himself. What am I? Anyway. Toya, again, good stuff from you as well. I was really, I am also interested to see sort of the showdown, so to speak. I mean, to a degree, between Nals and Astrika. And I love the sort of Uncle Bones idea. I also really liked the image that you were conveying about figuring out what was going on with the labyrinth as you were going through it, and like the fact that, of course, Nals has this sort of dream life, and is focused on that, based upon both class and backstory, is interesting in a world like this, in which the veil, as they keep talking about, does seem quite thin at times. So that was interesting to me to see how Nals is going to handle things in a place where you are, I don't know, spirit caller adjacent, maybe, something like that. So it makes perfect sense in a way that you'd be the one to help infiltrate. We'll see whether your well-laid plans work out as you hope they will. But it was fun to see them being planned and set up for this moment. How'd you feel about today's session? Where will the fine folks find you next?
Yeah, I enjoyed thinking about all of the ways that we could work this out, because the was Dew Dream, what's it called? Dew Dream Gardens?
Dew Dreams Wine Garden, yes.
Dew Dreams Wine Garden itself feels very closed off, especially with the way the guards have the place kind of circled off.
Yeah.
But I feel like there are a lot of opportunities for this to go right. Of course, there are ways it could go wrong, but there are all these kind of nooks and crannies, and then there's the labyrinth itself, and the leverage team who are keeping things a close eye on things, and the fact that there's a telepath involved, and there's somebody who understands dreams and like the thin veil between being awake and unconscious, that there are a lot of different things we could do and a lot of different ways this can kind of go. And so you're saying this could get really crazy. I'm like, we already there.
Crazier.
We've been crazy.
Yes.
So I'm looking forward to kind of strategizing with everybody, and as my dog is in my neck, as I always say, this group comes up with such inventive things, and so I'm really interested to see, like, on the fly, as we're getting deeper into this, like what happens with the interaction with Astrika, and they're noticing things and how to game things out. So I'm looking forward to the next session. I next will publicly be at Gen Con. Otherwise, I'm not doing anything else, but I'm going to be watching this draft, finally get that out of the way, get deeper into baseball season, and just looking forward to NFL training camps. I'm a
stuff.
very simple bitch.
It's good stuff, Toya. Thank you. It's always a great pleasure to have you with us. And last but certainly not least, great pleasure to have Johnny with us also. As Zach said, I loved that. I loved the sort of tech explanation speech from the perspective of someone who understands the value of it. And when you pulled out the blade, and then when the drones came out, and everyone's like, that was a very cool moment that had like a very cool visual in my head about how you would put all of that together in managing it. And I don't know. I think it seemed very much like what Titus actually meant, that things are as tools and that you use them as tools in this case, and tools for good, and that it's necessary to do that in some context. So I am excited to see Titus as part of the tech team as things get real, as they say, over in the next session. How did you feel about today's session, and where will the folks find you next, Johnny?
Today's session was great. It was intense in the setup. It definitely felt like a heist movie in some ways, the way that there was a lot of exposition and a lot of opportunity to navigate the sort of the intellectual side of the action that's about to happen. I have to say that I think we are not prepared for what we're about to get into, and I love the fact that that's going to happen, that every minute of it is going to be some unconventional, action-oriented, oh my god, what are we doing next kind of a thing. Because I'm expecting the most fun I'm going to have next session will be watching Toya figure out how to navigate that social situation and have that conversation. That's the thing I'm waiting for. But I'm looking forward to Fob getting into the action and then figuring out how Jaraxxus and I are going to, support them in some way without like making it a huge problem.
The cellar door slams shut, begins to fill with lava. God damn it!
Right, exactly.
That won't happen.
Not at all. No. Next place anybody's going to see me probably is back here. I imagine that we're going to play early in the month at some point, and then there's Arvan as well.
Yes, indeed.
Right. So that's it for now, and otherwise, that's it for me.
Thank you, Johnny, and thank you again to this wonderful crew. Yes, you will see them next month, hopefully early in the month, and then hopefully for ARFCon, our 10th ARFCon, by the way, everybody. 10th ARFCon coming up, so pretty cool. But thank you, chat. Thank you for being with us, chat, and can we get some love for the amazing crew for the awesome Expedition of the Mysterious Peaks, Johnny Pittman, Toya Kristen Finley, Kat Rambo, and Zach Clay. Thank you so much, players. Wonderful stuff, and I will see you folks here next month. Bye for now.
Bye.
And that is going to do it for us for tonight. I really enjoy all the campaigns for different reasons. And here it's both the world and the inventiveness of the crew. Like as was said by Toya, I really do like the inventiveness of the crew. And my weakness clearly when it comes to this stuff is anything that involves spies, political intrigue, or heist setups. I'm very likely to be in. It's pretty much I love that stuff. Ocean's 11 and Leverage and anything that involves competence porn, where people are putting themselves together, but also where they can improvise quickly and be able to think on their feet. That stuff is all really important also. So I love that stuff, and I cannot wait. And when I say the whole thing about it getting crazy, I mean that in the sense that it's going to go in a very different direction in terms of where, and it's all connected with things, with clues, with bits of information that they've gathered, that they've come up with together. And of course, their own decisions that they've made, their own choices that they've made, all sort of come together to make this. And that's the stuff that turns my crank. I love that stuff. So I cannot wait to see more of that coming about. But that is going to do it for us for tonight, although we are going to do a raid. So please don't leave because we have a solid turnout tonight. Yeah, Dragon, I know. Hardy har. You know when this stream starts. So the Arvanauts have landed, followed by Twitch Raid, uppercase T, lowercase r, or lowercase Twitch, uppercase R, lowercase AID, or Subraid. The Arvanauts have landed, and then all the emotes you can throw in there. Arvany Hype, Arvany Roar, Arvany Woe, Arvany Switch, Arvany Love, Arvany Blown, all the Arvanys. Oh, my pleasure, Tim. Thank you for stopping by, and I hope you enjoyed it. All of those Arvanys, when you were brought over automatically to the person that we are going to be rating. And as I mentioned, ArvCon is coming fast. We are now a little bit, about 5 weeks away from ArvCon. It's going to be during Memorial Day weekend in the States. So you'll definitely want to be here for that. 3 days and possibly 4 of exciting tabletop role-playing games, concerts, giveaways, events, sponsorships, all kinds of cool stuff that you are going to want to be around for. It's going to be neat. I am excited about it. I have already contacted the Damon Runyon folks. They have already gotten back to me. Megan McCurdy, who is the head of their public relations and marketing, has said that it's really become special to them at Damon Runyon. Like they've almost kind of adopted it. They really like ArvCon, and they just think it's cool stuff. So she is looking already for the scientists who are going to be part of our scientist game and a bunch of other things. So it's going to be good stuff, and all to raise money for a great cause known as the Damon Runyon Cancer Research Foundation. We've raised over $30,000 for them in the last 9 years of doing this event, and this year we're going to I'm probably setting the goal at 5,000. I would love to be able to reach that. We will have giveaways to do it, but if you think about it, a bunch of people, many of whom have not met each other in real life, some of us of course have, but many of us who have not met each other in real life, the fact that we're drawn together in this community and can come together to raise that kind of money year after year, and really make a difference, a tangible difference, a real, honest to God, this helps people in the world difference, that's pretty special. So I love doing it, and it's a lot of work to do it, but I love doing it, and it's important, and it's one of the big events that we'll have all year. And it's going to start a big summer, folks. We've got that coming on. Then my daughter and I are going to be at Three Rivers Comic Con in Pittsburgh. I usually see a couple of the Arvanauts in the Pittsburgh area down there. Then I've got the thing going on at the Nebula that I mentioned. Then in July, I've got ReaderCon. I'm going to be going to that. Then we have Gen Con coming up in August. I have a couple of other things that I can't talk about yet, which I haven't quite yet finalized, but will soon. And when I do, I'll, let you all know. So it's going to be a really great summer. I think I'm excited about that. Yeah. No, I've never met either Zach or Drew. Never met any of them. I don't know what you mean. In no way have I ever met any of those people at all. Okay, let's see what we've got. Okay, yes, I know who we're going to raid. So please stick around for the raid, but in the meantime, please spread the word about the show and let people know. I'm going to be back to you folks on Tuesday at noon Eastern with Tari Tunes playing some more Beowulf Age of Heroes as we come to the conclusion of that first adventure known as the Hermit Sanctuary. And then I'll be over at GOG Comms Twitch channel, and I should actually check and see what I'm doing on that day. Hang on a second. Oh, okay. I'm playing Sovereign Syndicate, except newsflash, I realized that I have to change that because I actually won Sovereign Syndicate. So I'm not going to be playing Sovereign Syndicate. I'm going to be playing another game, which I don't know what it is yet. But I'll be doing that on Tuesday. And then Thursday the 25th, we have got D&D with viewers. So if you've been waiting to play D&D with me, and I know we have some new folks who wanted to play some D&D with yours truly, I have got an adventure lined up, a one-shot adventure lined up. It's going to be starting at 9 o'clock on the evening of Thursday the 25th. So please come by for that. That'll be a good time to watch and or play. And then Saturday the 27th will be more Eberron Oracle of War. And then on the 30th, the last day of April, we will have the Patreon fueled chat chosen game of the month. We're going to be finishing up that vote. Oh, which reminds me, definitely make sure you get your votes in right now for that because right now the choices are Kathy Rain's Songs of Conquest or On Guard. On Guard is slightly ahead of Kathy Rain. 6 votes for On Guard, 5 for Kathy Rain. Songs of Conquest does not seem to be winning at the moment, but, we have some more time for the votes, so you can get your votes in right there, and I'm going to be playing that on that Tuesday the 30th. Then playing some D&D with GOG Ghosts of Saltmarsh. Might be Talisman Adventures actually on the 30th. I have to double check, but I think it might be Talisman Adventures. And then the Arvocalis on the night of the 30th with the Banner Saga with Rem, Indy, and KP. We won't have Zach for that because Zach will be finishing up with Alien, but then Zach will be back in May for that. And then Thursday the 2nd on to more Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and on there. So, yeah, we should sign Tim Coolish up for D&D with viewers. Listen, if Tim Coolish is here, I'd be happy to have, I think everybody would be on board with having Tim Coolish on D&D with viewers. Absolutely. It would be a fun time. I am excited to have people on board with this. So, but anyway, I want to thank everyone for being here and remind you all that if you like what you saw and heard, please follow the channel. Check out our YouTube with !ArvTube. Okay, I'm going to actually fix that now before I forget. Okay, that is now fixed. So, okay, so yes, so thank you. I have made that adjustment. Sorry, I'm doing this now because if I don't do it now, then I'm going to forget. So there's that. Okay, good, lovely. All right, so following the channel is really great. Following the channel is great. Checking out the YouTube with !ArvTube. For those of you who are watching on the YouTube channel, thank you so much for doing that. Please sub to the YouTube channel. Free to do that, but it really helps us out. This is we are at a new record of subscribers over there, so we want to keep building that even higher. So please, can you take it higher? A little bit of Creed for you. Anyway, I think that's Creed. Anyway, definitely make sure you join up with us on the D&D sort of thing. So that's D&D with viewers. And then I literally just said D&D with viewers as I was looking at you talk about D&D with viewers. That's not at all it. It's called YouTube, !ArvTube. That's what I wanted to say. That's what I meant. The Discord channel is !ArvCord. You can hang out with us in between streams. !ArvTweets is my Twitter. !ArvSky is my Blue Sky. Website, arvanellerman.com. Financially, !ArvShop. Damn Yankees. !Arv Shop is the merchandise area. !Arv Treon is the Patreon. Really helpful to support both of those things. So I hope you can consider doing that. Let's see. And then, of course, subbing to the channel, as several of you were kind enough to do today. That really helps us as well. Those custom sub badges and emotes to use here, there, and everywhere across Twitch, plus inspirations to help our players. Publishing, Icarus, my graphic novel from Athos Arts. Library, my Tales and Tomes from the Forbidden Library. That's my 5e adventure in the source book. From Alligator Alley Entertainment, and Greyshade is my Greyshade IP. Greyshade and Renegade, first two books in the Grey Assassin trilogy. You can get those right now. You can also get the audiobook of Greyshade from our very own Trent Sparks. You can also get so that's the audiobook of Greyshade. You can also get, you can pre-order the tabletop role-playing game of Greyshade from Alligator Alley and Brandon O'Brien. Very excited for that. That's going to be coming out late this year. It's in playtest now. And you can pre-order the final book of the Grey Assassin trilogy called Heretic, which, as you can see, is right there with that awesome blurb from Julie Cherneda. Super, super cool. Very excited for that book to come out. I'm very proud of it. And we are sending things out to copy editors. We're in the final stages now, so very excited about that. And cover art coming soon. I'm excited to see that too. So that is Heretic, and you can get all that at Greyshade. Last but certainly not least, BLM, Black Lives Matter. Important to affirm and assert the significance and importance of Black lives. Help Now, the World Health Organization page on suicide prevention. Important to reach out to others when you need help and reach out to others when they need help as well. And Ukraine, Ukraine, to help the fine people of Ukraine as they fight back against an illegal and illegitimate war with bravery and courage, and send the message we will do so for others in that situation in the future. Big step taken today as finally the House of Representatives passed a $60.8 billion aid package for Ukraine. Thank goodness. That is a big, major thing. It's a major positive step for democracy in the world. So good stuff, and let's support them to the extent that we can. I want to thank everyone who made this an awesome stream today. Thank you to my wonderful mods, Dragonspear, Drew the Damager, Emily the Invincible, Prince Justin, Triffity Mats. Make sure that you check out Emily's thing going on, that link that she's been posting tomorrow, Sunday. She's going to be on that. Please make sure to check that out if you can. Thank you to my wonderful mods, and thank you to my wonderful Patreon supporters and subscribers, Dragon Drew, Emily, Prince Justin, Triffid, Polar, and Tim Coolish, of course. And thank you so much to my wonderful viewers, Beach Raider, Cat Rambo, Jagtris, John, and Live Suing. And last but certainly not least, John, you are very persistent, but you're also a bot, so goodbye. Thank you so much, most of all, tonight to my wonderful players. Thank you to the amazing Johnny Pittman, the amazing Toya Christian Finley, the amazing Cat Rambo, the amazing Zach Clay, and the amazing Alligator Alley Entertainment for sponsoring us. That's it for me. I will see you folks here on Tuesday for some Beowulf Age of Heroes. Until then, everyone, please be good to each other. Thank you, Tim Coolish. And stick around for the raid, and I will see you folks down the line. Until then, everyone, please be good to each other. And bye for now.